This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar.
Hello, everybody.
Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
You know me, Alex.
Yeah, you
The
don't
hardest
even...
thing for me to do with the draft ace is to watch running backs. I always wait until like April to get to the running backs because I hate watching running backs. I
don't know why.
It just doesn't move the
You
needle.
like watching the line. It's similar.
It's just, you know what it is like running backs in college, especially the backs that come from the big schools.
Yeah.
They have so much room to do things that I'm just like, I don't think that any of this translates. That is such a topical opening. That is a
really
perfect timing because I had just texted Alex Ace this morning that today's the day that I rip the Band-Aid off and start watching some of these God-forsaken running backs. And that's exactly what I was doing before the show. I got to tell you, it was as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Like it's like pulling teeth for me. And I sent you a screenshot of me watching, was it Mike Washington from Arkansas? It's the first running back that I decided to check off the list. And he's just got this tractor trailer sized hole to run through that me or Alex could have ran through this whole ace. And I was like, this is not how this is never going to happen in the NFL. Like,
no, you bring up a really, really good point, and that's why I really liked that take, because it never translates. No star prospect wide receiver does the exact thing he did in college on the field in the big leagues.
Yeah,
it's like
and
you have to adapt.
It's like, here's all this room is in front of him. Like, he runs fast. Big dude runs fast. I get it. But it's just an absolute crater-sized hole right in front of his face. And it's like, yeah, obviously he's going to hit a big run here. Honestly, I came away from that Arkansas tape thinking that the guy in the backfield that mattered was Taylon Green, the quarterback.
Yeah, it's the quarterback, obviously.
Okay, but he was...
Also, you like watching offensive linemen. Weren't you interested as to why the hole opened that wide?
I suppose.
Which game was that? I forget.
Texas A&M. It was the A&M game.
They got a good front.
That's why I picked that one, because I was like, oh, maybe this one will actually have some translation because there's NFL players on that Texas A&M front. I don't think I came away wowed by anything that the running backs did in that game. And I was just like, oh, God, here we go. The first one. The first one.
I would not, and I texted you this, I would not have had Mike Washington be the first back you watch.
Well, I just was going by the consensus board. I'm not going to watch...
Well, for one, he's going to go too high.
I'm not going to watch Love. There's no point in watching him.
I mean, obviously, Mike Washington's not going to be a top 10 pick, but he's probably going to go top 60.
Okay, well, they had him in for a 30 visit, reportedly.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So I had him on my list.
Fair enough.
Here's my list. I sent it to you.
Did you watch any others?
No, because I couldn't get through it. I was like, oh, my God.
Do your job.
Mike Washington.
Do your job.
What do you think I'm doing? I'm trying. It's hard.
You said you couldn't get through it. Like, your job is to get through it.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. I know. Woe is me. I'm not, like, I get that this is ridiculous, that I'm like, oh, I got to watch football today. Like, I know it's stupid.
Poor Evan has to watch running backs all day.
We'll get to recency bias later, and I'll gush a little bit more about Taylon Green. He was the best player on the field. I don't know why we're talking about the freaking running back. So, Mike Washington.
Yeah.
Jonah Coleman,
he's like the ceiling for me of them taking a running back. You'll have more fun watching him.
Emmett Johnson from Nebraska's on my list. Nick Singleton from Penn State.
Yeah, he's good. I like him.
Claiborne from Wake Forest.
I like him, and he's like a stylist. He could be a Patriot. You need to watch him. You need to actually focus and watch him. Okay.
Katron Allen, the other Penn State running back.
They're kind of the same. The two Penn State guys are kind of interchangeable.
The guy that everybody wants, Adam Randall from Clemson.
Right. Are you going to watch the receiver tape too, or just the running back tape?
I'll watch the tape that's available, whatever he's got.
You usually don't always go back to like previous years.
Oh, no, probably not.
You should watch a little receiver tape.
Maybe. We'll see if I have time.
It's part of the makeup of the prospect.
Is it Kalen Black?
Kalen Black,
from Indiana, and then the two guys that you said I had to add to my list, Owens and Reed.
Desmond Reed and Kayjon Owens.
Yeah.
Those are later, but...
Right.
You want them to draft. You want a UDFA. You don't want them to sign somebody. So those would be like the UDFAs.
Yeah, I mean, so my goal every draft season is to at least know who they pick through the fourth round, right? Once we get into 5, 6, 7, I'll know of the players, hopefully. But like, if I haven't done like a multi tape deep dive into the guy, I give myself some grace on that. So when it comes to each positions, I always start with the top 100 guys, even though I know they're probably not going to draft a running back.
No, you need that background,
right? And I also will do the same. I've been procrastinating corners as well because they have 3 really good corners and they need corner depth. And I know, but like, are they really going to draft? They're not going to draft Colton Hood, right?
I can put together a list of corners for you.
They're not going to draft Colton Hood. They're not going to draft Terrell from Clemson. They're not going to draft. I don't think they're going to draft like Pons or Chris Johnson or any of those guys that are going to be, top 50, top 65 picks. Like, I don't think those guys are going to be Patriots. Anyways, I digress. Hello, everybody. Hi. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Ace behind the glass, as you can tell. Off and running here on Catch-22. Busy day today. We got some things to get to from the owners' meetings, the league's meetings, I should say. League meetings. They like league meetings.
Yeah, it's not owners' meetings anymore.
League meetings from Mike Vrabel yesterday, mostly. I do want to talk about some of the things, our takeaways from that. I told you that we'll do a special teams roster reset, so that's on the agenda as well. Special teams roster reset. And then we'll get into some of the draft stuff, like the recent pro day buzz, recency bias, all that good stuff. The pro day workout scene around Patriot Nation of Mike Vrabel and Max Ionichor at Arizona State before Mike Vrabel trekked to Phoenix for the league meetings. He stopped in Arizona State. Where's that? Tempe? Arizona State?
Yes.
And got a look at Max Ionichor, hands-on look, up close and personal. So we'll get to all of that. Let's start with the league meetings and what Mike Vrabel had to say at the league meetings. I wouldn't say that it wasn't a totally different press conference than the one that he gave at the Combine. It was pretty similar to a lot of the topics that he talked about at the Combine. I think the biggest takeaway that I had, and I know that there's a lot, A.J. Brown's kind of a headline, Christian Gonzalez is a headline, obviously. His whole answer about competing for championships and all that stuff is a big headline, I think, as well, just as a big picture sort of thing. But I thought his answer, he was asked about year 3 growth for Drake May and what that looks like to him with Drake May. And I thought that answer to me was the most interesting one he gave. He said, physically, he's an elite quarterback. Like, we don't really have to worry about physically with him anymore. But he said he wants him to, and this is a direct quote, control the game at the line of scrimmage. And when I heard that, Alex, I couldn't help but relate it directly back to the Super Bowl and how Seattle, whether it was through film study or just doing what they do or whatever the case may be, they spammed those blitzes against Drake May, especially the nickel or the slot blitzes by Devin Witherspoon were particularly effective, but just their pressure package in general took over that game. And my takeaway from that was they feel like Drake May could be better as a pre-snap processor and getting all the ducks in a row and the chess match before the snap and all that good stuff. And that's where they're at with him. It's not physical. We all know that. It's not even post-snap, really, that they're concerned about. It's setting mic points. It's moving protections. It's getting the team out of bad plays and into good plays. The mental side of the game and the mental chess match before the snap. And I would just say, like, my take on that really quickly, that's a very difficult skill to perfect as a young quarterback in this league. And if that's his final hurdle to being a MVP runner-up to an MVP, I guess, I don't know how much higher you could possibly go, but a little bit, then so be it. That's the final hurdle. I do wonder if there's schematically, and we can talk about this a little bit more, is there a happy medium of allowing him to make plays on his own when he's under pressure versus doing the Tom Brady thing of coming to the line of scrimmage and directing traffic? Because that was Brady's superpower. Right. And the other guy I brought up yesterday when we talked about this on Unfiltered was Peyton Manning. Like, those are the two guys that I looked at and said, their superpower is their brain. Not every great elite quarterback has that as their number one trait. A lot of these quarterbacks have skill and have raw talent and ability. So I wonder if there's maybe a middle ground there of, if the slot comes on this blitz, we kind of trust you to just figure something out, versus let's move the mic, let's get him blocked, let's design a route here, let's do that, let's do this, and we're traffic copping at the line of scrimmage. What was your takeaway from that?
Yeah, it's the next logical iteration of this offense. We know this is something that unlocks a lot in the Josh McDaniels system, and I like they didn't put it on his plate right away, but I think this was a big talking point last year, right, in terms of getting Drake May the right offense coordinator and not putting too much on his plate. But you want to build. You never want the offense to be stagnant.
Yeah.
You don't want to come back with the same thing year after year after year. And you're going to have new players, so that facilitates some adjustments as you go and things like that. But you want to build on what he's doing. And physically, I don't know, is it unfair to say, like, physically, I think he's kind of maxed out where he's at? Like, what more are you asking him to do physically at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a little telling, because when we talked to him for Patriots.com at the Combine, he mentioned the younger players on the roster, specifically on offense, getting stronger.
So putting more muscle on, but that's not like a...
But his answer yesterday kind of made me think, okay, maybe he was just talking about the young linemen, like Campbell and Jared Wilson and those guys.
You want to...
and Kyle Williams.
If he could bulk up a little bit, it's just going to help him take some hits. And yes, the offensive line needs to be better, but you're not going to go an entire season without getting hit. That's just the reality of it at the quarterback position. So I think like the mental side is where he has more room for growth than the physical side, is probably a better way to put it. So and then if they can unlock some of the pre-snap stuff on top of what he can do physically, think of all the things that Josh McDaniels can start putting in. It can start involving. So I don't think, and I also don't think it's giving him the entire Brady pre-snap guide year one. It's something you're going to build to, but it is the next logical step for him for me. And I think it was always the next logical step. It was just a matter of how quick did he get there. Obviously, with the season he had, maybe they come in thinking, okay, this is a thing we're going to work with him on year 4, year 5, year 6. But after the year he had, you can kind of move that timeline up a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that it's pretty obvious, just talking to Vrabel these couple of times that we've gotten access to him this offseason, and just sort of the topic of Drake May. It seems pretty obvious to me that they felt like year 1 last year of Josh McDaniels' offense, they did not have the ability to fully unlock the whole Josh McDaniels playbook. Yep. And is that concepts? Is that this kind of stuff before the line of scrimmage? Those are kind of two different things. Maybe it's a combination of both. But it just feels like they almost want to push him even harder to now go from bachelor degree in Josh McDaniels' offense to PhD.
Isn't that what they should be doing?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't want to get complacent. Yeah. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is interesting, though. And then we can move on. There's a million ways to kind of solve problems at the line of scrimmage, and every quarterback sort of has a checklist of, these are the 4 or 5 things pre-snap that they look for, whether it's safety alignment, corners, body positioning of corners. Are they squared up on the line of scrimmage? Are they open to hip towards the line of scrimmage, which would usually mean some sort of off or zone coverage, versus squared up is usually some sort of press or soft press or man, so they lead, body lean, or just like the language of the body is important. They also look at the front, is it a 3 down front, 4 down front, 5 down front? They have different calls of like how to get to different things in terms of protections that way. All that kind of stuff is like pre-snap. They literally call it like a checklist, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through down the checklist. And so there's that element of it. Then there's these other offenses, and I know that these offenses tend to bug you. My guys' offenses, like the Kyle Shanahans of the world, a lot of those offenses react post-snap to problems instead of fixing problems pre-snap. Their job is to react to it post-snap. So within every concept, there's what we call a hot route within every concept. And if the ball is snapped and Brock Purdy's standing there and the nickel blitzes, and he knows he's 3 over 4 on that side if the nickel blitzes, so there's too many guys coming from that side, he's just immediately getting the ball out to a hot route. Now, there's pros and cons to doing it each way. The pro to doing it Kyle Shanahan's way, or the West Coast Tree's way, is that not a lot of quarterbacks can do the Brady thing of sniffing out blitzes before they happen.
Right.
So it simplifies it for the quarterback. The con, of course, is that these defenses are smart. And like we saw a couple years ago in the Super Bowl against Steve Spagnuolo knows how they handle pressure. He knows that their answers are post-snap hot routes to pressure. So he just like had answers for it, right? He would bring pressure and then they would be dropping guys into passing lanes and there was no place to go with the football, and Brock Purdy was kind of caught with his pants down. So there's different ways to go about it. I think that the Seattle defense gave both ways problems last year during the playoffs. In the playoffs, they destroyed the 49ers. They basically shut them out. And I think it was a lot of the same kind of stuff, but just won for different reasons. And then against the Patriots, they kind of broke the Patriots rules pre-snap and were able to kind of win the chess match. I know that they're going to continue to stick with the Josh McDaniels way of doing things, of the quarterback having the controls and steering the offense and all that kind of stuff. So you're right. You know, it's just, you push Drake May, it's on him to get better at it. And hopefully he will. The other big headline, I don't want to talk about AJ Brown, so I'm just going to keep pushing that down the list. The other big headline was the Christian Gonzalez stuff. And I thought that he was pretty, he pounded the table pretty good for Gonzo at the combine. But he said that we want to be a team that's about drafting and developing guys and then identifying the guys we draft that have earned contract extensions. And Christian Gonzalez is one of those guys. So that was Vrabel rubber stamping, I want to give this guy an extension, period. I don't know if he's come out as aggressively before with saying this is what he wants to do with this player, which is to extend Gonzalez. Robert Kraft gave an answer about Christian Gonzalez as well, about the timing of the contract that I thought was what we all sort of feel is the general consensus, which is earlier the better. But what were your thoughts on just all the Gonzalez stuff that came out?
You didn't mention Elliot Wolf in there, and he was on Kay Adams' show and talked about Gonzalez, and that was actually, of the three, the most interesting to me. Obviously, the Robert Kraft stuff about the timeline I think is relevant, but I don't know that that's, I don't know, didn't we kind of already know that it's better off for the team to get it done early, especially with Devin Witherspoon up for an extension? So it's confirmation they feel that way, but that makes sense. Elliot Wolf, in talking to Kay Adams, mentioned quite a bit, kind of got into, as much as you can really get into something in that format, Christian Gonzalez's leadership ability and how they view him as a leader. And if you're going to give somebody that kind of contract, you want them to be a flag bearer for your program. It's more than just about what the guy does on the field. Obviously, Christian Gonzalez has checked that box, but, and maybe this is what, why Vrabel's so confident in it too. We haven't heard a lot, one way or the other. I'm not saying he's a bad leader. We haven't heard a lot about Christian Gonzalez as a leader, and he's been one of the younger guys on the team, and that kind of makes sense. He's a quiet guy, and Wolf talked about that. You can be a quiet guy and still be a leader. They have vocal leaders on that defense, whether it be Milton Williams, Marcus Jones, who's in that room, was a captain last year. But I go back to Steph Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore was undoubtedly a leader on that team. The way he carried himself, the way he played, the way he practiced, the way he studied. Like you heard, and there was a young cornerback room around him. You heard players talk about how they gravitated towards that. Gonzalez is not going to, if he's still a young guy right now, it's not for long. And that's not to just say, oh, duh, he's getting older, but Carlton Davis is entering the last year of guaranteed money on his contract. You pay Gonzalez, or are they going to double back and pay Davis, who's going to be in his 30s a second time? Or are they going to try to get younger there, somebody on a rookie contract? There's not much depth, so that's probably going to get overturned. He's going to be, along with Marcus Jones, the veteran in that room. And if you're going to give him that contract, you hope he's a guy that the young guys in that room look up to, gravitate towards, that he can lead them. And it sounds like they feel that way. And Vrabel had talked, was it Vrabel or Gonzalez who said leading up to the Super Bowl that Gonzalez wanted to be a captain?
Vrabel. I think it was actually after the Super Bowl that he mentioned it at the combine, I think.
So clearly this is something Gonzalez wants. And I think that's important in terms of getting that contract. I don't think if they didn't view him as a leader, they outright wouldn't pay him. But that can be one of those things that we've seen it with other teams, that you give a guy the contract and he's a good player, but he's maybe not representative of everything you want the program to be. That comes with that.
Yeah.
So, and as they're negotiating, like maybe that's not a card. I'm a little surprised it's a card Elliot Wolf showed.
Yeah.
So he clearly feels strongly about it. So that just stood out to me because we hadn't really heard that talked about much. And so it's like, okay, they do feel this way about him. That's good. That's encouraging.
Yeah, I think your point about leadership, we've talked about this a little bit on this show, definitely talked about it on PU. This offseason, for better or worse, they've made some decisions on the roster that has let go of some really big leaders on this team last year. Obviously, the biggest one being Stephon Diggs, who was kind of a heartbeat of this team in a lot of ways last year. And I would also say maybe a little bit lesser so than Stephon Diggs, but like Garrett Bradbury was kind of a glue guy in that offensive line room. They're doing it to get younger and hopefully get more upside, I would say, at those respective spots. And I'm not saying from a football standpoint that it doesn't make any sense, but from a leadership standpoint, isn't the hope that Drake May, Will Campbell, Christian Gonzalez, like those guys are now year 2, year 3, year 4 in the league as your best players on the team. It's always easier when your best players are your leaders. This goes back to Brady and Brady being, the guy that Bill could criticize in front of the whole team and kind of set a tone, right? I think Vrabel, the story that, was it Byard who told the story about Taylor Lewan, that he like chewed out Taylor Lewan like early on in his tenure in Tennessee, and everybody was like, holy crap, he just chewed out the best player in front of the entire team. It always helps when your leaders are your best players. He doesn't need to be a rah-rah guy to be a leader. And Christian Gonzalez, just it feels like they're trying to this is more of an inevitability with the contract, but maybe they are working on in terms of the numbers themselves. But it is interesting to hear some of the really strong pushes made by Elliott Wolf, made by Mike Vrabel here over the last couple of weeks. Anything else on Gonzalez before we move on?
I think that's it.
All right, a couple more things.
Let's do. No, never mind. I thought I had something on AJ Brown, but I forgot it.
We'll get to AJ Brown.
Okay,
he's last.
I'm sure we'll get calls about him.
A couple more things. I think it was Chad Graff who asked the question. I apologize if it was somebody else. I thought it was a good question about wanting to improve the run game and some of the free agency signings that clearly seem to have pointed in that direction, which I think we've talked about. Reggie Gilliam, you pay a guard.
Yeah.
You sign a blocking tight end in Julian Hill. It just seemed like they were trying to send a message that they wanted to be more physical, be more run-centric, and Vrabel basically confirmed that line of thinking yesterday during his press conference, saying that the numbers sort of came out in the wash because they had some big explosive runs, especially by Travion Henderson, but he thought that they were inconsistent, and the word he used was inefficient running the football. I'm not sure if they use these exact metrics. They probably don't. But the Patriots were 14th in yards per carry last year, so middle of the pack. A lot of that has to do with the big runs, though, right? Those can skew it. When you have 50, 60, 70-yard runs like Travion Henderson did last year, that skews it. They were 25th in the league in EPA per rush. And EPA takes into account down and distance, more like play-to-play consistency of the run game, short yardage, goal line success, like all those types of context clues that matter in this conversation. So they were a bottom 10 rush offense last year by the advanced metrics. And it seems like Vrabel knows that, whether they're using EPA or their own formula or whatever the case may be. So they wanted to get bigger, badder, tougher in terms of the run game. They went out there and did it. I thought it was just interesting that he kind of confirmed that line of thinking that we all sort of kind of had.
Yeah, and I mean, the free agency reflected that with the guys they added. They want to be more. It's the consistency. It's everything we talked about last year. They were ripping off the big runs, but the consistency wasn't there. And at a certain point, I know you love running to set up the pass.
Yep.
I know you love that as a concept, but the reality is, if you don't have a sustained run game, it allows the defense to approach things differently in terms of sitting more on the pass, not taking play action as seriously, things like that. And it's going to open things up for Drake May a lot more if they can have a sustained run game. Yeah,
that was the other thing that he mentioned that was music to my ears on this topic, was that he talked about the run actions in the, which is the coach speak for play action. I don't know when we decided to call it run action, but now we call it run action apparently instead of play action.
I still call it play action.
But he brought that up, and he said that he wants that to be a bigger weapon for them next year. So it's not.
Do you think that's him talking, or do you think that's something you hear Josh McDaniels say?
Maybe a combination.
Because I feel like Josh McDaniels, like that sounds like a him thing.
Maybe a combination, but I'm
not saying Vrabel doesn't want it. But
all
just
of these things,
knowing Josh's offense.
Yeah, like all these things like play action, motion, like all the bells and whistles that we talk about.
Yeah.
I call them easy buttons because they just drive up passing efficiency. Like it's just a known fact now that play action is more effective than drop back passing.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a team that can really sell it and is really good at it. So that's why all these offenses that are rooted in that sort of thing are so successful, is because it's just really that misdirection and that sort of false look to the defense is just hard to stop. It's hard to defend. They didn't necessarily have a great play action passing offense last year. They didn't necessarily have a great running game when you start to really look under the hood of some of these numbers in the run game. So what I love so much about it is that he talked about situational running and marrying run and play action, which to me are the core root of why you run the ball.
Yeah.
You run the ball for short yardage. You run the ball on the goal line. You run the ball to close out games when you have leads in the fourth quarter, and you run the ball to set up play action. Like that to me is philosophically is why you want to push the running game in nowadays in the modern league. And that was really good to hear out of him because I think he agrees. Next thing on my list, just getting into the draft a little bit, tight end and third quarterback. Seems like those are right on the list along with some of the other things that we've discussed.
They might draft 2 tight ends. I've been kind of ruling that out. They might draft 2 and carry 4.
It just seems tough to me because you also are carrying Gilliam. So
every time he's asked about tight ends, he lights up. It's clearly his favorite question.
Because I think it's his favorite position. Because I feel like as a defensive player,
I want somebody to ask him that. And I know we have the ability to. It's just like I wasn't there yesterday. Next time he talks, like
he moonlighted.
Do you think
as
he
a
likes
tight end?
But do you think he likes tight end better than linebacker?
Yes.
Okay.
Because he caught. I think he would even admit that catching touchdowns is the most fun thing you could do on a football field. Throwing or catching touchdowns, right? And so his experience doing that as a goal line tight end, I think he feels like that is almost more impressive than anything that he did on the defensive side of the ball, that he was able to flip sides and play offense and catch touchdown passes from Tom Brady. I think is like his pinnacle. Like, he shows the clips of him doing it every year in front of the team. Like he really likes that. And I think he really likes the position because of it. I would also say, like, a lot of the times linebackers and tight ends work out together a lot, and they work together a lot because they're obviously going right up against each other. So whether it's workouts, whether it's positional drills in practice where they're doing blocking and stuff like that, there's a lot of interaction between those two position groups on a football team. So I think maybe he just has a soft spot for tight ends, just in general.
They're gonna draft. To me, tight end comes into play at 63, and
I agree. I just don't know who.
The only reason I don't say 31 is because I think Sadiq's gonna go too early for them to even trade up. I wouldn't be surprised if they've used Stowers as a receiver.
Yeah,
and so I don't know. Are you taking Max Clare at 31? Probably not. Would they? Do you? I know I kind of got roasted for this by you and some people in the comments last week.
Good.
I'm not asking if you would.
Yeah.
I am asking, could you see them taking Max Clare, Oscar Delp, Sam Roush, whoever, at 63? Especially if Stowers goes like top 50 and like, okay, here comes a run on tight ends.
I could see it. It's not something I would advocate for.
That's not what I'm asking you.
I could see it.
Are you ruling it out?
I'm not ruling out anything, but I would say
I don't think we can rule it out.
I would much rather them try to trade up from 95 at that point.
Okay.
Like
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I just think 63 is a little high for those guys. That's all.
I'm with you, but we're not the ones making the decision. They are. It's not our job to. I could tell you what I would do all day. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. What matters is what they're going to do. That's what we're trying to project. I could see it.
I could see it.
If they're going to reach on one position,
allocation of resources, I don't.
I agree, but I'm not rolling out them doing it.
Okay. I don't. I guess.
I'm just asking you to project. I'm not asking what you would do.
I think that this is the biggest issue with tight end that I have, though, in this draft, is I think there's a pretty sizable gap between Sadiq and the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
And so Sadiq's going to go in the first round, probably too high for the Patriots.
Yes. I still think he's going to go top 10.
Wherever he goes. I just don't feel
Kansas City.
It's tough for me to stomach like who you would take at 63. And like, I really think the guy that you're taking at 63 is probably a 3rd round pick, probably, guy that in a different sort of draft and a different landscape and a different board is probably closer to the 95th pick than the 63rd. But if you don't take him at 63, is he going to be there at 95?
Right,
and
that's
you're doing
the thing.
That whole thing.
Like, if these guys start, like, if you take a guy at 63, maybe you're overdrafting.
Yeah.
But if you have to trade up from 96, you're not overdrafting in the sense that you're getting him in a better spot on the board compared to the projection, but you're now using 2 picks or 3 picks to draft him, depending on how high you trade up. And you might say, okay, they're 6th round picks, whatever, fine. But like, that's the reality of it. If they want to make, here's another like developing draft take I have that I guess plays into this is everybody's acting like they have 11 picks. There's no way they're going to make 11 picks. They're going to fly off the way. And like they should. Again, this is projections. That's not what I would do. 4 of the 6 years that Elliott Wolf has been here, and I understand that his role has varied in that time, but just to use that as a window, 4 of the 6 years Elliott Wolf has been here, they've made at least 10 picks. We always say there's no way they're going to make all those picks, and then you know what they do? They make all those picks. They made 3 7th-round picks last year.
Yeah.
So the idea that they're going to make a trade that's like 4 picks for 1, I don't think is happening. Or if it does, there's going to be another trade back down and recoup it. So that's my counter to your point. Yeah, you feel more comfortable drafting them at 95. What do you think the odds that one of Claire, Delp, or Roush is there at 95? And if you don't like those odds, maybe they're not 0, but if you don't like those odds, you have to trade up. Are they going to be willing to give up 2 picks, 3 picks just to draft a tight end versus, hey, we like the player, we'll take him at 63, and we'll go from there?
Fair enough. I would like to think that, and again, this is how this works. There's runs, guys go higher because of runs and all that kind of stuff. But I think that guys like Sam Roush, for example, who you bring up, that's his value. Like, his value is somewhere
so I don't think you're
3rd
taking,
or 4th round.
I don't think you're taking Roush at 63. I was just kind of using that.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, don't you just kind of feel like most of the time those things sort of come out in the way that you sort of think they are going to? Like, obviously we don't have control of the board in terms of the injuries and the red flags and the off field. But I'm just talking about in terms of the things that we know.
So
like, so somebody's going to take Sam Roush like a round or 2 earlier than he probably should.
Not a round or 2 earlier, but in the 80s.
I guess.
You can't say he's going to go around pick 95 and then he goes at pick 94 to the Dolphins, or a better example would be the Rams at 93. Like, he is kind of a prototypical Rams tight end, right?
Yeah.
McVay tight end. So, and look, maybe you look at that and say, okay, fine, we'll move up from 95 to 92, and it's all well and good, but are they going to be willing to trade up that far? And like, they clearly want a guy. This isn't if there's a good tight end on the board at some point, we'll take one.
But my point is like, how do they view in terms of the clusters and the drop-offs?
Yeah. Like, well, the other option we haven't brought up is moving back from 63 and taking a tight end with your 2nd pick, but your 2nd pick is in the 3rd round.
Okay.
Which is probably more realistic.
If you have to take, let's just keep it simple.
Yeah.
If you have to take Delp, Roush, Claire, let's put Stowers in there too, even though it's not our guy.
Yeah.
If you have to take one of those players at 63, are you taking that player at 63, or are you taking like Jack Endries, Raritan, one of those guys at 95, or like one of the 4th round picks?
So see, now Endries at 95 feels like a big reach to me. That feels like a bigger reach, but I don't know who else is on the board. Like, it's complicated. Again, Vrabel seems ecstatic about finding like his guy at tight end. Nothing against Hunter Henry. But I think
he's 32 years old.
Right, exactly.
It's nothing to do with Hunter Henry.
Vrabel wants to find his guy, and I think the idea is this is the guy that, not ability-wise, but like, this is Brady and Gronk. He wants to find Drake May's go-to tight end for the next 10 years.
Sure.
Is that a position that they're going to view, well, there's better value for the lesser player? They're just going to be like, no, we like this guy. This is our guy. We're taking him where we need to take him to get him.
If they think he's good enough, maybe they just view these guys differently than I do, and they think the players are better than I do.
It's not those guys. It's more the position. Is it a position Vrabel is willing to take?
But that's bad process. To just take a guy because he plays tight end is bad process.
It's not just take a guy play. I guess, yeah, okay, maybe it is viewing the players differently. Does he view that gap as wider?
Yeah, or does he just fall in love with Oscar Delp or Stowers or Claire or Roush or whatever? I don't know. I just feel as though in a normal setting, this reminds me a lot of was Asiasi and Keen was 2020.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that those players didn't work out.
Well, that was also not nearly the tight end draft. That those guys would not have been top 100 picks in this draft.
Okay, but just looking at that draft.
It just pained me how far back I had to go to get to 2020.
Remember in that draft, there was a run. And I think the Patriots started it with Asiasi. But I was really high that year on Adam Trautman.
Oh, you love you some Adam Trautman.
Harrison Bryant was in that draft. Yeah. He won the Mackey Award that year.
Yeah.
There was a run of, I want to say, 6, 8, 10 guys that went in like a span of like a round.
So Asiasi went 91. Then Josiah Deguara goes 94.
Deguara, yeah.
Dalton Keene goes 101. Adam Trautman goes 105. Harrison Bryant 115. Albert O at 118.
Right. So it was a little bit of a run there.
Yeah.
This draft, I view it as similarly. I think that all these guys are sort of in that same kind of cluster, 3rd, 4th round picks where that run should happen. But if that run happens 30 picks earlier, then you have to be willing to adjust. I get that.
Just looking at what the projections were at the time.
Yeah.
You had no first round tight ends.
Yeah.
Bared out.
Yeah.
And you had 5 tight ends going in that were viewed as top 105 picks. So 5 in the top 105. And you ended up getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you ended up getting 5 in the top 105. Adam Trautman went 105th. This class is 1 in the first round and 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, no. Okay. It is 5 in the top 105. All right. Fair enough.
All right. Moving on.
But hang on. Sorry. If there's going to be a run on them, isn't that all the more reason that they might get aggressive in taking one earlier?
Maybe, but my point is more looking at it. He said it yesterday too. You don't want to draft for need.
You don't.
Right. And so, yes, he wants a tight end. He likes the position.
It's not a need. That's a want.
Right. And to just go out there and just draft a player at 63 and overdraft a player at 63 because he plays a position that you like and that you want to target is how teams get in trouble drafting. That's bad process. It's how you get in trouble.
Okay, so if it comes down to if there's a run, we assume people are going to go higher than projected. What's more of a reach to you? Taking Claire Delp a round earlier than they're supposed to go at 63, or taking Jack Andrews 2 rounds of where he's supposed to ahead of where he's supposed to go at 95?
Why is it 2 rounds? Jack Andrews is going in the 4th round.
I'm looking at it right now. His projected 5th round pick.
He's going in the 4th round.
All right.
He's going to be a 4th rounder. So
would you rather take the better player around earlier or the lesser player around earlier?
Well, it's not just that though, right? Because it's who are you taking him over at 63? Like if you take one of those players and you're passing up on one of the pass rushers, or you're passing up on one of the receivers, or you're passing up on one of the linebackers in this class that are all really good players, like that's fair. That's the other question. And I just think that this tight end class, and then we can move on. This tight end class to me is deeper than it is top heavy.
Yes.
There's just a lot of names. There's a big bag, and you got to grab the right one out of the bag. But there's a big bag. This isn't last year where you had Warren and Loveland at the top, where you had 2 top 15 talents in the draft. This is much more a day 2 and day 3 tight end draft, and you're just going to have to figure out which cluster you want to pick from.
Right.
Is it the Andrews, Raritan, if you want to throw Koziel in there in that group, like that cluster, or is it the Delp, Roush, Claire cluster?
Yeah.
And that's why they get paid to do this, and we don't.
That's right.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're going to invest something. 6th round pick, UDFA. I think it might be a draft pick. I just feel like a UDFA. They tried that last year with Ben Woolridge. I don't think you're just not going to get a good enough player.
Yeah, and you get the team control too. If they want to have 3 quarterbacks on the roster, now you have May.
It seems like it.
Right, you have May, you have DeVito, you have this guy, and you're just you're good.
It seems like Drake
also
May
makes him a tradable asset.
Yeah, it seems like Drake May in year 2 graduated to obviously he's the guy, but also like we don't worry about putting.
You're not worried about Zappy fever.
No, this is not Joe Milton. This is not Bailey Zappi.
Miss Joe.
We're good. So where do they draft the quarterback? I think is the most interesting thing.
Yeah. So
how early are you going?
6th.
Yeah.
I don't know about above that. So I know Taylor Green's a name Patriots fans have brought up that they like Cole Payton from North Dakota State. Those guys going too high. And Taylor Green, by the way, he said it comment. He's playing quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not changing positions. He's playing quarterback.
He should.
So I look at 2 guys. There's maybe a third that I wouldn't like, but I'll begrudgingly put on the list. And that's Cade Klubnik. I'm not a believer in Cade Klubnik, but I could see it. If they go 6th round, a little more of an investment, relatively speaking. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. My big thing when you're trying to find a backup quarterback is who's stylistically similar to your starter. And I know this is a 3rd string, but it still applies. Who's stylistically similar to your starter that can run a lot of the same things? Sawyer Robertson's a bigger guy, can move around in the backfield. He's got a big arm. Doesn't necessarily have the accuracy. Makes some, there's some decisions that you're going to want him to make better. That's why he's going in the 6th round. But, stylistically is a fit for May. The other guy, now he's probably in the 7th round. You could take him in the 6th, I guess, is Joe Fiano from UConn. Yeah. Have you watched him?
I know who.
Well, I guess you watched Skylar Bell. So the reason, there's really just one reason for this. Started 12 games last year, through 413 passes. 1 interception.
Yeah.
That is a Josh McDaniels quarterback.
He made some good decisions, and I didn't come away from that tape being Skylar Bell got really roasted by his quarterback, right?
No, he was fine.
Yeah, he got Skylar Bell the ball when Skylar Bell needed the ball.
He completed 70% of his passes, 28 touchdowns, 1 pick. Now, he's older. He was in college for 7 years.
Oh, God.
He was at Maine for 4.
How old is he?
I think he's 25.
Yeah.
He was at Maine for 4, UConn for 3. He only has 2 full years as a starter, too. His last year at Maine and then his last year at UConn. He started 6 games last year, so it's not like he didn't play. He started 25 games his career, but, you don't need it. He's got the mind for it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the biggest arm, and he's not the best athlete, but it's what you want kind of in a backup quarterback. If he has to go into a game, if there's an emergency, he has to go into a game, you don't worry about him just totally melting in the moment.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Those are my 2 guys. Usually there's a quarterback, a couple quarterbacks in late rounds that are fun.
Because it's Taylor Green,
but
he's going too high.
Or it's, did you watch Haynes King yet?
A little bit.
Okay.
I didn't do a deep dive.
I'm going to ask a question again. Do you think he can play running back in the NFL?
I think he played the Taysom Hill role. I don't think he's
short, though.
I don't think he's a pure running back.
It's 6'2".
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's a pure running back.
Could he be a gadget player?
Maybe. Yeah.
Runs hard.
Yeah, and
quick.
Has some. What I liked about him was look pretty nimble, smooth.
Right, exactly.
He kind of slithers through the line of scrimmage, with a lot of no wasted movements, not too much dancing.
So maybe that's the guy too. But now you're if the goal is for him to be the 3rd quarterback, now you're back to where we were 2 years ago with Malik Cunningham, where if he's the emergency quarterback, he can't do that stuff because he's not technically active.
Right. So I think the question is, are you drafting a quarterback with you are going to be a career backup in mind? And I'm not using this name to throw any shade, but Brian Hoyer, right? Or are you drafting the quarterback to have some upside?
Are you trying to do the Joe Milton thing again? Draft somebody,
that
shows out in the preseason, you flip them.
Right. And look, it's going to be too high, but Taylor Green is that.
It's a bad quarterback draft. Those guys are going to go too high because teams are going to try to get their starters. The best you're doing with that guy, I think, we're outside of the top 200, or what do they have? 191 is their first 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Sawyer Robertson to me is as close as you're getting to that late in the draft.
Yeah, I think there's 2 kind of names that come to mind, and I was going to save this for recency bias, but I keep saying that, so let's just do it. With Taylor Green, there's 2 kind of names that come to mind. At quarterback, there's a little Kaepernick.
He's got the build.
The long strides.
Yeah, long strides, big arm. Yeah,
there's a little Kaepernick there. As an athlete, I think I see a little bit more Terrell Pryor than I do Colin Kaepernick. Yeah. So Terrell Pryor ended up switching to wide receiver and had a few good years as a wide receiver. So I just, and look, the biggest issue that I saw not as a thrower, as a runner, or just as a quarterback with Taylor Green, I should say. He runs into way too many sacks. Like he's out the back of the pocket.
He's not a disciplined scrambler.
Every single chance he gets. So with that, I posted a clip of him, running around and coming out the backside for a 60-yard gain. With that are the 20-yard losses on sacks when he gets caught trying to do that. So if he's going to play quarterback, he's going to have to learn to step through the pocket instead of step out of the back of the pocket. In the league, you can't go out the back. I don't care how fast you are. Like, unless you're like Michael Vick fast or Lamar Jackson fast. If you go out the back of the pocket, you're porked in the NFL. The guys are too fast. If you go through the middle of the pocket, which I think is probably what Drake May is best at as a scrambler, is that he usually goes forward instead of backwards to get out of trouble in the pocket. That is when you can do damage in the league as a scrambler. So whoever gets their hands on Taylor Green, who I think should absolutely play quarterback to start, because I think there's enough there. If you design an offense that's a lot like the offense that the 49ers ran for Colin Kaepernick, where there is a lot of option running on early downs. It's going to be a lot of zone read or read option plays. There's going to be some RPOs in there, probably, all that kind of stuff that Greg Roman did with Kaepernick and did with Lamar Jackson. Like, I think that Taylor Green has an NFL future as a quarterback. I wouldn't move him. Now, if you end up having to move him because it just doesn't pan out and he doesn't develop, then the Terrell Pryor thing is there. Like, he's that kind of athlete. He's a fun player. Like, I think that he's too good of an athlete to not have a role on an NFL team. Like, someone's going to find a way to play
all the more reason he's not going to end up on the Patriots, because teams know it, and he's going to go higher than expected.
Yeah. All right. So, quarterback, the last thing I put here begrudgingly, the Patriots are going to host the Eagles for joint practices. I'm not sure if that's one or multiple practices, but the Eagles are going to come here. I'll do Does
anybody do the multiples anymore?
Usually not, because of the fights.
Right. It
gets too scrappy. I'll do the talk show host facilitation. Is AJ Brown going to be a Patriot or an Eagle for the joint practices?
Or will he be here at all?
Maybe he'll be on another team. Who knows?
I don't know. I came away from the whole week just kind of feeling the same as I was about AJ Brown. If I had to guess, I think he's a Patriot, but I don't feel strongly about it. I'm like 55-45 he's a Patriot. So
it seemed to me, and this is going off of the Philly reporting of this story, more so than the national and the Patriots reporting. A lot of the Philly people think that he's gone.
Well, so did you see the ESPN piece this morning?
Yeah.
There's more about Jalen Hurts, but it kind of lends itself to this whole, like, you can't. I think some of the pushback had been, well, it's easy. They're always reporting receivers aren't happy. Like, that's, he seems unhappy.
It just seems like there's this feeling amongst just knock the mic. There's this feeling among the Eagles reporters that it's inevitable that he gets moved.
Right. It's just this weird June 1 thing is why it hasn't happened.
Right. So he probably gets traded. The Patriots are probably the front runners to get him. Do they finish the deal? Do they get it across the finish line is a different story. I don't think anything else has really changed, but I do think that the interesting piece of it is the Eagles beat has this inevitable feeling to it of like, this is just hanging over the team and this is going to happen. And it's just a matter of getting past this June 1 thing. Was there anything else from Vrabel or just the week in general that stood out to you?
I think that was it.
You had the Harold Landry thing you wanted to talk about.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel was asked about Harold Landry. We really haven't heard them talk a lot about him since the season ended. Acknowledged that he wasn't the same player after the injury, which I think we all saw.
Yeah.
Mentioned he's going through the rehab, and it's, tough to tell where he's at that point, but likes how he's attacking it. It's just, he's one of the big wild cards of this offseason that if they're counting on him to come back and be the guy he was for the first, whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 games before he got hurt, it changes how you view edge need versus if they're worried about him not being able to fully come back. And what if he is the guy he was last year? I think that changes how urgent you are about edge rusher. They still need a guy, but maybe that's the difference between, we can take a tackle at 31 and grab an edge in the second round versus no, we need to get the best edge rusher we can possibly get.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know their thinking in terms of what you're right. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't know. It's one of the big variables.
I don't think that it's much of a variable though, because I don't know how you could possibly bank on Harold Landry not necessarily bouncing back, but like he's just older in general.
I don't know. I think he's somebody this coaching staff believes in. I think they want him to be a part of it. They know what he can do when he's right.
And I'm not saying that he can't have a role on the team and he can't be on the roster and all that kind of stuff, but you can't bank on Harold Landry being like an impact player.
He's only 29.
I know, but he's clearly, being compromised by injuries. He had the ACL a couple years ago. Last year was what it was with the knee situation. It just feels to me like you can't put too many eggs in the Harold Landry basket. And that's nothing to do with Harold Landry. It's just where he's at in his career. There's a lot of talk, and this is sort of my take on edge rusher right now. There's a lot of talk about positions they might double dip. I think tight end started to pick up some steam as a potential double dip position because Vrabel said he would have 9 tight ends on the roster if he could. There's been other talks about other positions. The one position that I feel like makes the most sense to me to double dip at is edge. Not only because it's a great class, but when you really look at their depth chart, it's Draymond Jones, Harold Landry, Elijah Ponder, Braden Swinson. And that's it. It's those 4 guys and nothing else. There's no more Anthony Jennings. There's no more hybrid player like Jelani Tavai that can play edge in a pinch. There's nobody else. It's that group of 4. We have no idea what Braden Swinson is. Elijah Ponder is an undrafted rookie last year that carved out a role good for him. But like, are we really expecting him to be a starter?
It's a lot to project him from. He played just over 200 snaps last year to
starting. And then we obviously know about Landry's situation with his health and with his knee. If there's a position that they're going to double dip in this draft, to me, the one that makes the most sense is edge. And with edge, I always like it. Personally, I think it kind of worked out for them with Anthony Jennings and Joshua Uche. I know other people might have different opinions of those players, especially Uche. When you double dip like that, you can take one that's a little bit sturdier as a run defender, maybe a little heavier, just heavier player, has a more heavier style. And then you can take your screamer pass rusher off the edge too. And hopefully one of them blossoms into a well-rounded player and is everything that you expected. If not, you have guys that you can mix and match. And, maybe just to put names to it, I know some people like DDS from Penn State. I like him too, but to me, he's really a run player first right now. Like, he's a little stiff, he's a little upright, the way he moves, he doesn't necessarily have great bend.
How much did you watch him last year?
24?
Yeah.
None.
Watch a little bit. He didn't look as explosive this year.
He looked clunky this year.
But this is my question that I've kind of gone back and forth on. So I'm just curious your thought. Like, how aggressive would be the double dip? Let's say they take a guy in the first. Would you go first, second edge? Would you go first, third? Is it a day 3 double dip? Let's say they take the edge guy in the second round. Would you go second, third, second, fourth?
Right.
Like that. This is kind of what I'm trying to figure out is where is the range to double dip?
I just think that in a draft like this, there's so many different types of players. So like where I was going was like DDS is like your run player that you're drafting for early downs. I personally still really like Romello Height. I don't want to forget that I liked Romello Height 2 months ago. And then, you watch new guys and it's the whole recency bias thing, right? And Romello Height's 240 pounds. Romello Height's going to be a third down player to start in the league. And if he adds mass, if he adds run defense to his game, then maybe he can, round out and play every down. Like that to me makes a lot of sense in a class like this because there are so many different types of edge rushers and there's so many edge rushers that it makes sense to kind of double dip and double your odds of hitting on a guy that can really be an impact player. So that's the way I look at edge right now. I'm in on the double dip at that position.
Okay.
I'm not really in on the tight end double dip. I can't get there.
I don't love it either, but I could see it.
The other position I'll give you real quick before we take the break, double dip. If they don't go tackle at 31, double dipping on tackle on day 3 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
4th round tackle paired with a 6th round tackle or 5th round tackle. And right now, tackle's another spot. Morgan Moses, Will Campbell, and Marcus Bryant. That's your depth chart right now at tackle. So you need at least one. I think you could advocate easily for taking 2. So those are the spots I would look at. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do the special teams roster reset, and we'll open it up to you guys.
Come welcome our newest restaurant additions at Patriot Place.
Estella brings a celebration of flavors with a modern fusion menu, exciting cocktails, and brunch available daily beginning at 11 a.m. Enjoy freshly brewed coffee and Mediterranean-inspired breakfast and lunch from Angel's Cafe. Craving the classics? Chick-fil-A makes it easy to grab your favorite with mobile through, carry-out, and dine-in options. Download the Patriot Place Advantage app for special offers and to earn rewards every time you visit. Patriot Place. Shop, dine, enjoy.
The heaviest metal credit card of all time. Wielded at business dinners like a samurai sword. It's a classic corporate power move. But the real power move? Having end-to-end visibility on your most critical shipments. FedEx, the new power move.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right.
DraftKings is all about responsible gaming. It's more fun when it's for fun. So play responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction.
Alex, are you looking for any fresh new furniture before football season starts next year?
Always.
Bob's Discount Furniture has tons of in-stock styles that ship fast, so you can get game day ready in no time. Shop Bob's for wow-worthy prices on everything from featured packed reclining sofas and modular sectionals made for winning watch parties to trendy bedrooms and top-rated mattresses designed to help you rest up before your next football marathon. So stop in or shop online and get more for less with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right, let's take these calls, and then we'll get into the rest of the show here. Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
What's up?
What's going on? So, Alex, kind of like you, after the Combine, I had it in my head. I had this gut feeling that no matter what, Edge was going to be the first pick. And you couldn't change my mind. I had the same exact feeling last year with left tackle at number 4 overall, and I was 99% sure then that it was going to be Will Campbell, barring anything crazy. But then this weekend happened, and not the fact that Vrabel went to the Arizona State Pro Day en route to the NFL owners' meetings. It was the fact that they already had him in here for a 30 visit, and then he went out and he got on the field with him and tested him and, was watching him practice and watching him go through all the drills, and I might be turned around. And I feel like if he's there at 31, he's going to be the pick. And I'll be the first to admit, if he is, I'm happy. Because to me, what they've done so far in free agency, getting Gilliam, getting the freaking kid, I can't think of the tight end's name.
Julian Hill.
Julian Hill. It kind of spells to me like they're really making a commitment on protecting Drake May, which is great business. And Evan, I think you've had this expression before, like, unfortunately, like, it doesn't work out with Brown, which I'm on the fence either way. If it happens, cool. If not, whatever. We might have to wait another year to get that cherry on top to get that alpha wide receiver, which I'd be fine with. But I mean, if Ahanachour is the pick, I'll be the first to say I like it. I like the direction. And like I said, just with Gilliam and Hill and even Romeo Dobbs being a really good run block and wide receiver, it seems to me like they're making a commitment to be a little bit more balanced on offense and really solidifying the depth along the offensive line, which is great news. I mean, every fan should be happy. Let's just hope if Drake does have like 5 to 8 seconds to throw the ball that he has somebody's able to get open. And that's all I got for today, guys.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for the call. Good segue into the pro day workout seen and heard around the world. I would say, he kind of downplayed it. Vrabel did when he was interviewed with Patriots Unfiltered. That's on YouTube. You can check that out. And said, I do that at every pro day. And we were at BC's pro day. He was doing it with the BC guys.
Not like that.
It's just different because he's a first round pick.
That's true.
I think he was doing it he does it with a lot of guys. Not a lot of guys are a first round pick that is slated to go like almost exactly where they're picking.
Right.
So that's a big reason why this one with Ionichor has caught so much steam here. Which is, what's your opinion on Ionichor / Vrabel going out there to work him out?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. Is he a real target at 31? Is he a guy maybe if they move back? I've kind of come around to like, yeah, if you like him, you take him at 31. I still like Blake Miller better. If it's me and they're both on the board at 31 and tackle is like, that's kind of the determination, or you just have him graded higher than any of the edge rushers, I'm going with Blake Miller. Yeah. But I think Ionichor is a solid prospect. The difference to me is he's just not as ready. A little later to football. His technique isn't as polished, but you have the time. I might feel a little more strongly about it if Morgan Moses wasn't here, but he is. So I think he absolutely makes sense for them. I think he'd be a fit. I think he'd help, check off a major box. And if you do that at the 31st overall pick, great. Yeah. This is so I'll give you the hypothetical I gave Matt Toff yesterday on our podcast, and this is very rudimentary. I understand this is not how players are actually graded, but just for the sake of the exercise. Let's say, Patriot, you're sitting there at 31, right? Just grading players 0 to 100 because it's the easiest way to do it. 80 out of 100 tackle, 75 out of 100 edge rusher. Who are you taking?
Tackle.
How about like 78 out of 100 edge rusher, 80 out of 100 tackle?
I guess maybe an edge rusher now. I'm taking the better player most of the time.
This is kind of what I'm going.
I hear what you're saying.
Back and forth on.
I think the biggest thing with Ionichor, you mentioned later to football.
Yeah.
I think I have his timeline correct now. He came over when he was 13, I believe, from Nigeria to the States. When he came over, obviously, like right in the high school range.
Right.
When he came over to play basketball.
Yeah, and he played some soccer too.
Originally. And he was on an AAU team. He just kept growing. He just kept getting bigger. And his AAU coach is actually the one that said, have you ever played American football? And Ionichor was like, no, never. Like, don't even know what that is, basically. And so they got him to play American football. He actually didn't play American football until JUCO.
Right.
Not even in high school. So he has 5 years between JUCO and Arizona State of football playing experience. I don't know Blake Miller's background, but the fact that he started as a freshman at Clemson at a power program like Clemson tells me that he's probably been playing football since he was like 8 years old.
Yeah, he was I think 4-star recruit on 24/7.
So definitely since high school, right? And probably further back. So Blake Miller is the more polished prospect. He's the more pro-ready prospect.
He's a 3-star, but he played in high school.
I think Blake Miller is going to be a guy that's going to start for a team in his rookie season, if not day one. Ionichor is a little bit more of a project. Now, I get this question because there was age ranges all over the internet. I'm going with him being 22 years old.
I've heard the same. I haven't gotten a birthday, so maybe he's 23 when the season starts, but that's average. It's not young, but that's not old. Most rookies are 22 or 23 years old. 21 is where you start talking about a guy being young. 24 is where you start to talk about a guy being old. Yeah,
so his movement skills, his athleticism, his ability to pass protect, his range in pass protection, obviously his build, he's chiseled out of clay to play tackle, arm length, all that good stuff. All of that stuff is there. He's a ball of clay right now. The biggest issue that he has in terms of his technique is his footwork. His footwork needs some work. He steps underneath himself. He opens his hips early. He loses his leverage points at times as he's moving laterally to get out to rushers. He'll open up the inside. He has a tendency to narrow his base, which usually invites guys to bull rush you. When you narrow your base, you get off balance and you don't have as good stopping power on bull rushes. So to me, a lot of this stuff is fixable, but a lot of it is with his feet and his footwork. All this stuff, if you're sitting him behind Morgan Moses for a year and you're having him learn the position, by his second year in the league, he should be ready to start.
Right.
So he might be ready to start before then. Like, I'm not saying ruling that out. I thought his tape against Texas Tech and David Bailey and Romello Height was really, really good.
That's why he's in the first round conversation, I think, is that game. It shows the ceiling.
Yeah, he allowed 2 hurries against 2 guys that are going to be playing on Sunday.
Yeah.
And David Bailey is going to be a top 5, top 10 pick.
Yeah.
So he did very, very well against those 2. I mean, they got him a couple times, but for the most part, he was really solid in that game in pass protection particularly. So there's a lot to like about him. The other thing with the tackle thing that we talked about a little bit last week, and sort of how I got to this conclusion with my first mock draft, is just the wide gap. Like we were debating tight end. This is not debatable. Like you're either going tackle early or you're going tackle day 3, and there's really no in between at that position. Even the guy like Crownover or Bowery, we're still talking about fringe top 100 players there at tackle. So if you don't go tackle at 31, when are you getting that developmental tackle? What are your expectations of that tackle long term? You're probably looking at drafting somebody to realistically that you hope develops into a solid swing tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, I think
not
there's
a starter.
A couple guys that have like starter upside, Crownover, Bowery, Bell, but they're not. It's not a guarantee, and obviously nothing's a guarantee, but they're a lot further away. You mentioned the tackle gap. Like this is the big question to me. You use the consensus board. Ihanachore's player 37 right now. We know he's probably going to go a little higher than that. The next true tackle is Crownover at 94. We're not going to go 60 picks without a tackle. Like how soon after Ihanachore does the next tackle go?
Right.
And how much does that shoot the rest of those guys up? Like, again, Bowery, Bell, that group. I know some people like Cage Casey from Boise State, Austin Barber from Florida, but especially Crownover, Bowery, Bell. Like I see people mocking those guys in 125. Probably got to take those guys in 95 if you want them. They're going to go. It's like 2 years ago. Caden Wallace was supposed to be whatever it was, like the 10th tackle off the board. He was, but he went 2 rounds before he was supposed to go because everybody just started taking tackles.
Yeah.
I could see that happening again this year. Just add, subtract whatever number you see him projected at, subtract 20 or subtract a round or whatever. Like that's more realistic.
So the snag in all of this in terms of, and this is exactly the exercise I went through when I put together my mock, the whole situation is like, do you need a wide receiver or not? Because if you need the wide receiver, I think you need to take a wide receiver with the first 3 picks at least, but maybe the first 2. If you really want to pick somebody that's going to have a
immediate impact.
And like if you pick one in the 3rd round, even in a class like this, you're kind of just double dipping a Kyle Williams.
It's
type.
A rotational player. It's not a starter. Yeah.
Right. Like it's the same thing you did last year with Kyle Williams. So if you really want to get like that impact guy, Boston, Concepcion, Cooper Jr., Brazel, if you are okay with Chris Bell's medicals, those types of guys. I've started to really kind of see it with Ted Hurst. Like, maybe Ted Hurst is, a target at 63 potentially. Yeah. Those types of guys are going to go early. So if you need the receiver, well, you can't draft a receiver, edge, and tackle with your first 2 picks because you only have 2 picks. So you can't draft 3 positions with 2 picks.
Well, unless you trade down.
But
then now you're risking missing players.
So if you don't do tackle early and you're doing it late, then you could go edge receiver. But if you feel like you need to take a tackle this year that has a chance to play for you early on in their rookie contract, then you kind of have to go tackle. And I feel like the depth at edge rusher allows you to sort of go tackle edge, right?
Right.
At wide receiver, I don't feel as confident about that. Like, I don't feel like you're going to get a receiver at 95 that I feel great about. Like, maybe you'll get, like, the Stribling tier.
Yeah, I feel a lot
Bryce
better at
Lance.
edge at 95 than receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel better about edge at 95 than any position except maybe tight end.
So that's a difficult part about it is if you don't go tackle early, you're probably not going tackle this year in terms of really setting it and forgetting it at a tackle spot.
Right.
And then you have to figure out how you're going to allocate your resources elsewhere. Let's get into Zach in New Hampshire. What's up, Zach?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I emailed into Unfiltered yesterday and haven't been able to listen to it, so if you already answered this question, you can just ignore me. I was just wondering, what would be your ideal role for Kyle Williams this season? What do you think is a realistic role, and what's your ideal one? And then who would be your favorite player in the draft to pair with Kyle Williams in the receiver room?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Zach. I think the realistic goal for me, and this is realistic, not pie in the sky, I kind of look at Kyle Williams in sort of two different... The floor of Kyle Williams to me as a player is sort of like a Philip Dorsett type that has a trick. It's to get down the field. He's pretty good at it. He can kind of hold an NFL roster spot for a while because of that. The ceiling is Brandon Cooks. And where he fits, is he the floor? Is he in the middle? Is he the ceiling? I probably gravitate more towards middle to floor at this point. I just think it's hard to see him go. What he had 10 catches last year, 20 catches last year, to go from that to Brandon Cooks. Seems like a pretty big leap. So I don't know if you're necessarily drafting anybody to pair with Kyle Williams. I don't think I view it that way. But in terms of where I view Kyle Williams, I think Kyle Williams can be a NFL caliber field stretcher, just like Philip Dorsett.
He has a role. Yeah. He has a role, but I don't know that he's growing into the number one guy.
Right. Or I don't even, number two might not even be, that's the hope, right? Yeah. That's the hope. All right, let's get into the special team stuff. I told you we could do it, so we're doing it. Special teams roster reset. We did offense and defense the last 2 weeks. We'll round it out here. The roster is special teams because it's a phase of the game and it matters. Go ahead.
Don't take that tone.
Go ahead.
I'm leading it, or
no? I got it. Kicker. Andy Borregales.
Check. Set.
One kicker. They don't have any other kickers.
Good to go.
Is there an area of improvement that you feel like he could work on this offseason? Because he's the kicker.
He's pretty good. He had that little bumpy start, and then he was kind of rolling. I know the game in Denver was just, the conditions were ridiculous, so you can't work on that.
Yeah.
No, I feel good about where they're at a kicker.
Punter. Bryce Behringer right now, currently the only punter on the roster. Is he going to be the only punter on the roster in training camp? I have my doubts.
I doubt it. Now, the question is, do they draft somebody? And if they draft somebody, I think even at 247, if you draft a punter, that's probably the guy. This isn't a bad punter draft. There's not that elite guy, but Brett Thorson, Tommy Doman, Jack Stonehouse, Ryan Eckley are all legit NFL caliber punters. It's just, do they draft a guy? And I don't know that all those guys will be drafted. One or two of them might. Do they draft a guy, or do they go to the UDFA and turn it into a real competition? Right? Because we even saw last year, it was a real competition between Borregales and Sly, but it wasn't.
Right.
Right? We got Ty goes to the draft pick and blah, 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 whatever. That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm going back and forth on. They're clearly willing to draft these guys. They drafted a kicker and a long snapper. So if they do that, I think that tells you where they're at with Behringer, but he's coming, I think, from a higher spot. He didn't have a great year last year.
He didn't.
But, Cardona, they hadn't moved on from him at the time, but it's pretty clear they're ready to move on from him. They needed a guy. And I don't think Sly had the season that Sly wasn't as ingrained as Behringer is. So this is what I go back and forth on. But they have 11 picks. I could see them drafting a guy.
They need to not draft a guy. They need to bring in competition for Behringer. It doesn't have to be the draft. It could be a UDFA.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to draft a guy in the 4th round and kick Behringer to the curb, but I think they need to bring in competition. He did not have a good year last year. There are now, obviously, what do you use net average? Is that your thing? What's your
net average?
Net average is usually the classic one. There are some punter metrics out there now that are some analytical type of stuff that try to take a little bit of a deeper dive on punting. He was down near the bottom of the league in some of the metrics that I saw last year. Just too many shanks. There were some really good punts in there. There were some not so good ones. The game in Denver, weird conditions. Marvin Mims is such a big factor. Maybe they were trying to kick away from Marvin Mims.
No, but even before that.
Wasn't great. Wasn't
so
great.
do you want the little, if there's a connection here?
Sure.
Jack Stonehouse, the punter from Syracuse.
Yeah.
His cousin is Ryan Stonehouse, who Mike Vrabel had with the Titans. So weigh that however you want, but there is a connection there.
Feels like he needs some competition, and that might mean just to kind of give him a kick in the butt. And
Oh
he
yeah,
wins
no.
the
If it's a
job.
UDFA, open competition,
Right.
And I don't know. We'll have to. Me, Mike Reese, and Brian Hines will have to find a way to chart that. It's harder than. Oh, we're not going to get to run of the hill. I guess we'll still run over and check it, but it's not going to be the same.
Why wouldn't it be the same?
Because we're not. It's not. There's something about it being a competition, especially when they go back and forth.
You guys are the worst.
Oh, we have fun.
I know you do. Too much.
Don't say Mike Reese is the worst. How dare
I
you?
didn't say Mike Reese is the worst.
You say that about me.
I
You can
said
say.
that-
I'll let you say it about Brian Hines. You can't say that about Mike Reese.
Long snapper.
They're good.
They have 2 long snappers.
I have a question about this.
That's my question. Why do they have 2 long snappers?
Nico Lalos, well, it might be because this is what teams do. You keep the second long snapper in camp, so he's familiar with your system. You cut him, but then, like, if you need a guy, they did this with
they have an emergency.
Tucker Addington.
They
for
have
years.
an emergency guy.
Right, they did this with Tucker Addington. Nico Lalos went, what Ivy League school did he go to? Is it?
Didn't he play defensive line?
Yeah, so he was an edge rusher, and he entered the NFL. He went to Dartmouth. Okay. He entered the NFL as an edge rusher and spent a couple years as an edge rusher, mainly playing in the preseason. But there was some, like, he was a guy that would kind of pop in the summer, and people, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe keep him around on the practice squad. And then a couple years ago, he shifted to playing long snapper. I wonder if they brought him in to kick the tires on him on the edge as a potential depth option.
That'd make more sense than, like, I thought. I didn't think of Ashby once last year.
No.
Which tells me that means he did his job. Because if we're talking about the long snapper, it's for a bad reason.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have a stopwatch out to get the snap to hold to the, what's that called? The process.
Operation time.
Operation time down. I'm not doing that. But I never noticed anything wrong with the snaps.
They did this with Tucker Addington for years. You have another guy in camp so that he gets familiar with your operations, and then you cut him. But if your long snapper gets hurt, you don't want to sign a guy who's never snapped to your punter before. So maybe it's just that. I wonder if they're going to kick the tires on him at edge. I'm very curious about that.
Go to the returners.
Yes.
Punt returner. Marcus Jones.
All pro. Set.
That's the tweet. Marcus Jones.
Yep. Locked and loaded.
Done.
He is still due for a big one. I kept saying that during the playoffs last year. He's due for a big return.
He had the big one against the Giants, right?
Yeah.
He returned one to the house of the Giants. And he had one earlier in the year, too, against Carolina.
Panthers,
Yeah. Had a couple. Good player.
And Afton Chisholm, if somebody gets hurt, or Pop Douglas, like they have options.
Good player. Kickoff returner.
Need.
Okay.
Like legit need.
Okay.
It is. We saw it last year, starting with that Bills game. The other teams could return kicks. The Patriots couldn't. It made a difference. It's a momentum play. It's a field position play.
So the difference between the best kickoff return team in the league last year and the worst, do you want to guess how many yards it was?
I think it's like 6.
6.5.
Okay. How many?
6.5. From 1 to 32. 6.5. Like, I get what you're saying, but like,
so
are they going to
on.
use a draft pick on a kick returner? I mean, I guess
so.
And
the average team,
they have 4 6-round picks. So if they take one of those spots to draft a guy that can return kicks, I'm not saying that.
the average team returns 4 kicks per game.
Okay.
So you're talking about a difference, like 30 yards over the course of the game, 30 yards in starting field position. Would you rather Drake May starting at like the 22 or at the 35?
Well, it's not how it works. It's 6.5 yards per kickoff return. So like, it's the difference between him starting at the 25 and the 31.
That's a difference.
Okay, it's a difference.
Over the course of the game, that's a difference.
It's a difference, but we're not, like, you're not using a top
If it's
150
30
pick
yards,
on a
if
guy
it's
just
30 yards over the course
kicks.
of the game, that's 3 first downs your offense doesn't have to get that they would otherwise have to get.
You're not using a top 150 pick on this.
No, you're not.
That's
unless you draft a guy that
can do both.
Right? Is that
ideal situation?
How does that factor into the evaluation of a player like Casey Concepcion, right?
You want him to return kickoffs?
He's good at it. I guess it's different.
I would not have him return kickoffs. He's too thin.
I want them to have a definitive kick returner. I do. That play matters. You saw how much the Bills used it. Like, if I'm willing to compliment the Bills on something, I'm serious about it.
I don't
there
want
were
this to come
multiple
across
games.
like I think it doesn't matter at all.
No,
I just don't
you
think it
but
matters as much as you do.
There were multiple games that the Bills were out of last year. They were dead in the water. The game here, the game against Tampa, they get
Ray
two big
Davis.
kick returns from Ray Davis, and suddenly they were back in it.
Fair
I
enough.
want them to have that kind of juice. There is one true kick returner in the draft. Like, he doesn't play. He's listed as a receiver. I forget the exact numbers. He has more career kick returns than he does receptions. His name's Caden Wetchin from Iowa.
You mentioned his name 100 times.
So, no, the one I keep mentioning is Barryon Brown from LSU, because I think he has like a tiny bit of wide receiver upside.
Okay.
He was really good as a freshman at Kentucky, and then he just never built on it. He had like 600 yards last year at LSU. He's a hell of a returner, and I don't know what he gives you that Kyle Williams or Pop Douglas don't. Probably more similar to Kyle Williams. So I don't know how big of a role there is for him as a receiver, but it's something you can try to tap into. I got 4 6-round picks, man. I want to see them have like a guy that's a threat back there as a returner.
Fair enough, but can we take a running back that can also play running back and is just happen like I know
Adam
we keep bringing up Adam Randall, but like maybe they have another guy in mind.
I'm not
someone that can do something else besides just return.
I'm not super big on Caden Wetchin for that exact reason. I want the guy to have a little more value. So that's right. Like Barryon Brown to me, you can at least play a little bit of receiver.
Okay, so just looking at their options on the roster real quick.
Yeah.
Efton Chisholm did it a little bit last year. That did not go so high.
Doesn't have the speed for it.
Kyle Williams did it, and that one I'm more warming up to. Like, he obviously has the straight line speed that if he hits a crease, he has the ability to do it.
I'm more open to Kyle Williams.
The more value, the more things you can do.
Right.
I think that he's one of those types of guys that needs to find ways to get him on the field, get the ball in his hands, simplify it for him. Last year, they obviously used the third running back, whoever was the third running back.
Right.
Whether it was Terrell Jennings, Dearness Johnson, Antonio Gibson early on in the season as that. Terrell Jennings is back. He's under contract. Land Larison's coming back.
Land Larison could be one.
Maybe has a little bit of juice to do that. Not exactly a straight line speed guy either, but has the vision, the running back thing. Like, he's probably not a home run kickoff returner, but he might be a guy that gets the 30-yard line, which is what this play kind of turned into last year.
Right.
Was like the first box you wanted to check as a kickoff return unit was to get the 30-yard line. Anything after that was kind of gravy. So those are the three guys that I look at as options right now in-house. And I will assume that they're going to draft somebody that has a skill set for it, even if it might be a receiver or a running back that's really developing as a receiver or running back.
Right.
And secondarily has some kickoff return juice. Can we agree to that?
Yeah, I just want them to get somebody.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get to some more of these emails. The calls, 855-PATS-500 is the hotline. We have some recency bias examples here, players here that we can get to as well, but I want to read some of the emails because we have a bunch of them. So last week we were talking about wide receiver comparisons, like pro comps.
Yeah.
And I said that I was trying to find one for Jordan Tyson, but never mentioned it. I never mentioned it because I was trying to find one.
Yeah.
For Jordan Tyson, I think tomorrow I'm going to drop my wide receiver rankings that I do every year. They all have comps. I worked tirelessly to find comps that fit all these players. The one I settled on for Jordan Tyson was Amari Cooper. I feel like the way that he runs routes is a lot like Amari Cooper. He's a 6'2", 208-pound, 5-pound route runner.
Right.
Like, he's not a physical down the field contested catch, that type of thing. He's built kind of like that, but he runs routes more like a smaller receiver. So I've heard, I settled on Amari Cooper because Amari Cooper played a decent amount on the outside.
Yeah.
I've heard some Keenan Allen, but I feel like Keenan Allen really became a slot or a Z as his career progressed. Jordan Tyson kind of reminds me more of Amari Cooper because he can play on the outside. I think he can play a lot as an X on the outside. Where are you at with Jordan Tyson today? Because this is another name that I feel like keeps coming up, and people, the board, it just keeps on sliding down for Jordan Tyson, it feels like.
Again, it's just one of those things that's like, I'd love him on the Patriots for his skill set, but if he falls that far, what does that say about where his health is?
Yeah.
What does that say about how his medicals are checking out? Like, I don't want them to take a guy that can't stay healthy. Like, you worry about that. And He had the ACL tear his freshman year of college, the broken collarbone, now 4 different hamstring injuries last year. Like, that's not nothing. Usually I'm completely out on those guys. So the fact I'm even thinking about
Feels
it,
like
I think
a guy
says a
that
lot.
Mike Vrabel would be out on.
I know. And people are going to be pissed if they pass on him. But, like, I like him. I think they should take him if he falls. But I also get it if they don't.
So Mike Vrabel had this go both ways for him in Tennessee.
Right.
Jeffrey Simmons was hurt in the draft that he was drafted in and ended up being one of the best players in Titans history. I think.
Caleb
Fairley, Isaiah Wilson, right?
Isaiah
Tackle.
Wilson, there was some, like, off-field stuff,
But
too, right?
part of it was injuries.
All right.
I think
Caleb Fairley's but Caleb Fairley had, like, a long-term
degenerative back
injury. That's a lot scarier than hamstring to me.
Hamstrings.
Fair.
Both hamstrings.
But, I don't know. Back to me is like, and
Gronk.
There's an exception to every rule.
I'm just telling you the exception.
The back stuff is always not great. Gronk was the exception, of course.
So I have a thought on Gronk here in a second that we'll get to by the end of the show. So he had to go both ways for him in Tennessee. Yeah. He took an injury risk with Jeffrey Simmons, hit it out of the park. He took an injury risk with Caleb Fairley, and it blew up very famously in his face, right? So Jordan Tyson, which one stung him more, right? Like, which one impacted Mike Vrabel more?
Yeah.
Hitting on Jeffrey Simmons or having Caleb Fairley never be healthy enough to play an NFL season? We'll find out. But Tyson is in that category. I've heard career arc-wise, some people have compared him to Odell because, like, Odell had all the talent, had some really good peak seasons, but just couldn't sustain it, couldn't stay healthy. Like, could that happen with Jordan Tyson, where every time he's healthy, he's one of the 10 best receivers in football, but he's only healthy every so often?
Right.
You know, that sort of thing.
That.
A couple more wide receiver questions. This one's pretty straight up. Should they draft Denzel Boston at 31? Where are you at right now with Denzel Boston?
I don't know who else is there. I don't hate that idea, but I don't know that he'd be my favorite pick.
I've warmed up to him this draft cycle. Not usually
you
my type of guy.
You were out on him last week. Oh, no, you were in last week.
Not usually my type of guy.
They're on the board at 31. Denzel Boston or Chris Brasley. You have the call. Who are you taking?
Man, why do you always do this to
Because
me?
you change your answer every week.
You're right. Boston.
Okay.
I'm trying to be consistent. Boston.
Yeah, I think Denzel Boston's who you say. Last week you said Denzel Boston and then gave all the reasons you wouldn't draft him.
I know. The zone profile scares me. That kind of guy should be good against zone. Like a 6'3" receiver.
Here we go again. I would draft Denzel Boston. Here's why he sucks.
He's good at the line of scrimmage. He's good at the catch point. He has the skill set.
I understand. If they didn't have Drake May, I'd be more out on it. He's such a good fit with Drake.
He's not Keon Coleman. He's not N'Keal Harry. He's much more fluid. You know, I think the archetype that he fits into, the bust is Keon Coleman, N'Keal Harry. The ceiling is Drake London, Tet McMillan.
Yeah.
I think Tet McMillan and Drake London are much better instinctively going over the middle of the field, finding soft spots in zone coverages, much higher success rates against zone coverage in their college careers. But their skill sets are similar. You know, I looked at this because I wanted to kind of make sure I had this right. With Tet and Drake London, the yak stuff hasn't necessarily translated all the way to the league. Like Tet McMillan wasn't a huge yak threat. Now is that the routes, the targets he's getting? Who knows? So maybe Denzel Boston. I know everybody brings up that he returned punts in college. N'Keal Harry did too. I don't know what that means, but maybe Denzel Boston has the chance to hit that Tet McMillan ceiling, but he's not as good of a prospect as Tet.
Yeah.
So he's somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Which way in the middle is he? You know, is he on the higher end of that spectrum? Is he the Keon Coleman end of the spectrum? Zachariah Branch.
Out.
Am I wrong to think this is the emailer? Am I wrong to think he's the third best receiver in the draft? Yes.
I don't want to say, like, I don't know. You view it how you view it. I'd have to hear the argument.
Fair
what
enough.
Is it? 40,
wrong is a little bit strong.
48% of his targets were behind the line of scrimmage. Is that the number?
Sounds right. It was a high number, whatever it was. Fast and.
Fast and, wiggly, breaks tackles, but
fast and. Like, what is his role in an NFL offense besides gadget receiver?
Oh, there isn't one. He's a good gadget receiver.
Is he? So
he's a good gadget receiver, but he's nothing more than that. He's never going to be like
to do what I just did with Denzel Boston.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman's the floor. Tet McMillan and Drake London at the ceiling.
Yeah.
To me, and look, let's put this out there. Floor could be out of the league.
Sure.
For any guy. I'm just talking about a floor where he's an NFL player.
Last year, I don't know about career. Last year, according to PFF, 54%, 55, I'll round up, 54.8, 55% of starters were not short, behind the line of scrimmage. Another 20% were short. He was only targeted 21 times. Did I just do that math right? Yeah, 21 times, 10-plus yards downfield.
He's a screen merchant. No doubt about it. Floor, Mecole Hardman, right? Where gadget player, return guy maybe, jet sweeps, screens, motions. Ceiling to me, realistically, is like Wan'Dale Robinson.
Curtis Samuel
maybe is in the middle there somewhere. Wan'Dale Robinson just had 1,000 yards.
That's true. Wan'Dale Robinson's a hell of a player. Wan'Dale Robinson developed more as a downfield guy.
He did.
Though. Like
that would be the iteration of Branch.
How high do you want to draft a guy that realistically is only going to play about 35-40% of the time?
Yeah, I don't see how his role is any different than what Pop Douglas's role was for this team last year.
Well, Pop Douglas you can send vertically. I wanted them to do that more. They didn't do it. I'm out on Zach Right for the Patriots. I mean, if there's a team that thinks they can, he'll go to some Shanahan offense and they'll find out ways to get creative with them. But
kind of like Malik Washington with the Dolphins last year.
Yeah, that's another good comp.
This is from Ashton. What do you think of Ted Hurst? I see him as a great option in the second round. I have warmed up to Ted Hurst. I watched a little bit more. I got more of his Georgia Southern film. Pretty hard to find Georgia Southern film, it turns out. Got my hand. Georgia State, excuse me. What conference is that? Is that the
Fun Belt? I think. I always get the two of them mixed up.
It was tough to find. I found some more. I've come around on Ted Hurst. I feel we'll do ceiling floor again.
It is the Sun Belt.
I kind of have ceiling floor middle for him actually. Okay. Ceiling to me is like George Pickens, right? That he's that kind of player. Middle,
explosive athlete, really good at the catch point.
Yeah, middle, maybe like Christian Watson.
That's a little generous for a middle.
You think it's too much?
It's a little. It's like a high middle.
So I ended up using Christian Watson because I feel like Pickens is too much. Like that's
okay.
Pickens too good. Like,
Pickens can't be a middle.
No, I in terms of just overall comp, I ended up settling on Watson.
Yeah.
I will admit some of the reason why I put Watson is because Watson went to North Dakota State, Georgia State. The jump in competition's about the same as well. The floor for that kind of player, floor is tough.
Is the middle more like MVS?
So, funny you say MVS.
Yeah.
For your boy Stribling, I ended up using MVS.
Is he that big?
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was. I thought he was like in the 180s. He's too. Okay, I retract.
Similar players.
Who was this? I'm trying to think for hers. This is going back years now. Who was the Steelers player? It was like tall, lanky burner, and they would only throw him goal balls.
Martavis Bryant?
Yes.
But Martavis Bryant was destined for much bigger things, and then he had issues.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, like Martavis Bryant was going to be a hell of a player.
Oh, yeah, he got popped for
it was bad.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. So, so apparently, this is funny. Apparently, Steve Smith Sr., he does the breakdowns of the receivers. He's actually pretty good at it.
Oh, I love it. He's great.
And I say that like he's Steve Smith Sr. Of course, he knows what he's talking about.
Not all great players, like they can't always project that, and he does.
His comp for Ted Hurst was Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, that's a bit much.
Yeah, no.
Well, did you see Lance Zierlein's comp for Denzel Boston?
Puka?
Yeah.
I get what he's saying.
He does it more stylistically than ceiling, but I do think that's funny.
In terms of the catch point stuff, I get what he's saying. Puka's such a better player with the ball.
I think he had Trey McBride for Sadiq, too.
Yeah, too much.
I don't see. Yeah, stylistically, that one even for me is a little bit much.
No, I feel like
and Lance does a fantastic job. But.
Oh, great job. Sadiq to me is stylistically like he's a better player, but like Jonnu Smith type of tight end. I don't know what the.
I got asked yesterday on the radio, and I said, think of any tight end that played at least above average for Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
That's
good. Yeah, whoever
an Arthur Smith
I know because Jonnu Smith feels like that's not a great ceiling if all he ends up being is Jonnu Smith.
He's like a faster Jonnu Smith.
Yeah,
he's got more pull away speed. But anyway, to get back to it, Ted Hurst.
I don't know what the floor is for that kind of player.
For Ted Hurst,
maybe like a DJ Chark.
Is it Taekwon?
Oh, that's like bust floor though.
Well, Tyquan in Kansas City.
Kansas City, Tyquan. I think
he had a role. He had a role.
Yeah, but Ted Hurst is heavier than Tyquan.
Okay. So here's the bigger thing for me when we bring up Ted Hurst.
I'll try to think of that.
And it's interesting that you brought up Christian Watson in there because I think they're similar players, similar range.
Yeah.
Ted Hurst or Bryce Lance?
Ted Hurst.
Okay.
Bryce Lance to me.
I think I go the same way.
Bryce Lance to me is
it's a debate.
A little bit more of a one-trick pony than Ted Hurst because I think Ted Hurst has that catch and run at the first level. Like Ted Hurst can catch a slant, he can catch a hitch, and he can turn that into a big play. I don't think Bryce Lance has quite that like gear and fluidity to him. Bryce Lance is, I got long strides, I'm going to eat up grass, and I'm going to get over the top
So what's
of the
your
defense.
Bryce Lance comp?
DJ Chark.
Okay.
Was my Bryce Lance comp because I feel like it's one trick. He's probably going to be pretty good at it. If you put him in that role where he's just running wind sprints on the outside, he's going to get by the defense enough to have an NFL career, right? Like it's just, that's the way that he's going to work out.
I'm going to have a middle for Ted Hurst.
Okay.
The guy's a little smaller, but.
You think Watson's too good?
Yeah. Nelson Aguilar?
He's probably smaller, like Nelson Aguilar.
He doesn't have the same body type. But Nelson Aguilar was sneaky decent at the catch point. Remember he had that one in Pittsburgh when he was here?
He did. That was probably his best play as a Patriot.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you a couple of others that because sometimes I go on Mock Draftable and I just look at measurements and try to sort of see if that will like jog my brain. Cedric Tillman, the failed Tennessee receiver.
He's still in the league.
Failed was probably a little strong. Dante Thornton Jr., another Tennessee guy that is just kind of a size speed guy. Those types of players, I think, are
Cedric
probably.
Tillman's still on the Browns.
I think that's probably what you're looking at in terms of floor. All right, let's get back to these phone calls here. Got people calling in. Eldred is in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, what up, Alex? Hey, man, I love you on the other podcast too, but I give you a good comp for Ted Hurst. It's Plexico Barris for Fitchburg.
Oh, that's not a bad one.
I honestly don't remember Plexico Burris well enough. Like I remember him, but not in that much detail. But
I wish I could go back into the memory banks a little bit better, Eldred, because it opens it broadens your library of players to compare people to, right? When you can go back a little while. You know, Plexico Burris is a good one.
Yeah, I'm 64, so I've been watching football.
I didn't mean to call you old, but that's a good one.
yeah, but my question is this: I know if they go 31 with a tackle who ain't gonna play to the following year, to me that's a waste. That's not a luxury because you're not at that point yet. You know, if they don't get AJ Brown, you know, and then you got 31. My boy moved up to 29 from 44 to 29 on the board. That's Brazzle. But Ted Hurst, you get him in the 4th or 5th round if you chance to do that. But I can't understand why just go. I heard what he said. You don't draft for need, but right now this team is in a position to draft for need. We're not in no luxury draft yet because you ain't got all the situation filled to replace the next person once they get old or whatever. You know, so I just can't understand why everybody wants Concepcion. You got all them guys already on the field. You know, if anything, I'd have put the receiver we got last year, him and Pop play slot because they got the speed and find that big outside to open it up. And you also got Dobbs, so to play the Z. So you be set from there, and then you also got Booty, but Matt got to go because he's too old. That's why I look at it. And I'll take it off the air.
Yeah, thanks, Eldred. I've been on Eldred's side all offseason. I don't think they're in a position yet to be taking stash players in the first round.
I think how hard it is to find a tackle makes that one position an exception. I wouldn't do it anywhere else.
To me, what makes the exception is A.J. Brown. Like, if you're telling me that A.J. Brown's going to be a Patriot by August, then it just changes the entire complexion of how I view it.
Sure.
If they don't have A.J. Brown, then I think edge and playmaker need to be at the top of the list. And I put playmaker, it could be a tight end, right? So I put playmaker, tight end, or wide receiver. That needs to be your first 2 picks, in my opinion, if A.J. Brown's not in the cards. But because A.J. Brown is potentially on that back burner, you can take the tackle early and take an edge in the 2nd round, trade for a 2027 pick for A.J. Brown, and you're right where you need it to be, you know, to start with. If you're not getting A.J. Brown, I think you need to take a receiver early. I don't know how else you go about it. Evan is in Colorado. Good name, Evan. What's up?
What's up, guys? I've been listening to the show since day one, never missed a week. I actually have a drinking game that I use with my coffee for things that you guys say.
Nice.
Example, Alex, whenever you say, have you seen his 2024 tape? And then whenever you say spin the dial.
Yes.
But my question is this. Look, I'm a huge fan of Christian Gonzalez. I don't want him off the team, but I think we have a history of knowing when cornerbacks are at their peak in terms of value. J.C. Jackson, example. What would you say if the Cowboys offer their 2 first-round picks this year and next year's first? Would you take it for Christian Gonzalez?
I mean, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Thanks for the call, Evan. I love that idea that he has, though. Drinking. I don't think we advocate for drinking, so let's
call show's on at noon on a Wednesday.
Let's call it coffee. I like that better. But send in if you did have a drinking game for Catch-22, what would it be? Because I want to see like yeah, right. Like I want to see what our quirks are, right? Because I'm all for constructive criticism. Maybe I say something too much and I need to stop doing it. So send it away. I'm curious. Now I'm invested in this. Back to the football. What were you just saying? You got me confused with how I Met Your Mother reference. Yeah.
2 firsts this year and a first next year for Christian Gonzalez.
That's a lot.
That's a lot to turn down. I love Christian Gonzalez, but that's nuts.
I don't think that's happening now. A first this year and a first next year in separate drafts.
I still probably wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
I'm not saying I do it. I just say that's more realistic.
That's more realistic. I'd think about it. I don't know.
That's basically what Sauce went for, right?
Right.
All right. A couple more things I want to do before we wrap up the show. I do want to talk briefly. Today is the Patriots Hall of Fame committee meeting.
Yes.
So there's, I believe, 23 people. And one of ours.
Are you allowed to say this?
I think so.
All right. I don't know if it was like.
Well, we talked about it yesterday on PU.
Oh, you did? Okay. I didn't know if it was like a secret board.
One of ours, like in Goodfellas when Joe Pesci's going to get made?
This is not a good example to use. Don't forget what happens to Joe Pesci.
That's why it's kind of
it doesn't work out good for him at all.
That's why it's kind of funny, right?
No.
One of ours, Alex, is now on the inside, and that is one Mike Deuce Dussault, who is now on the Hall of Fame committee. And,
is Fred not on the committee?
Oh yeah, Fred and Paul have been on it for years.
All right, Paul. So
no, they don't count. They've been on it for years. One of ours is now in there. I hope I'm not walking to the phone booth like De Niro and throwing a fit in an hour when we get off the show and Deuce comes back. I'm very happy for my guy though. It's pretty cool.
No, that's awesome
to be in that room, be in that community, and get to vote on this. That being said, you get 3 spots to nominate. The nomination then goes to the fan vote, and the fans vote on who goes in. That's the process. So you can nominate anybody. So a lot of the old timers will come in and they'll nominate like Mosey Tutupu and like some of the guys from back in the day. Obviously, there's a lot of guys from the dynasty that still need to go in. This is the first year of eligibility for one Rob Gronkowski. I think he will win in a runaway, just like Julian Edelman did last year. The Edelman-Vinatieri one was a little bit close, relatively speaking. I expect Gronkowski to get like 90+% of the vote. That being said, Gronk and Vinatieri are locks to be on the ballot.
Those should be the next 2.
They're locks to be on the ballot.
Yeah.
You get 3 people on the ballot. So who would be your third? Couple of candidates. Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Logan Mankins gets on it every year and never gets in. One of the old timers, if there's anybody like that you have.
I mean, Mankins would be one for me. You mentioned Wes Welker. I'm going to keep saying this. It's an unpopular take, but I don't care. And I'm not saying it should happen this year. It shouldn't happen before Gronk or Vinatieri or maybe some of these other guys. I want Randy Moss to get a red jacket. I do. I know he was only here for a very short time. Didn't end well.
I know.
Look at the reception he got at the Brady thing.
I know, but
the
purists are going to have a tough time with that.
He is a part of Patriots history. He is a staple part of the history of this franchise. I'm not saying he has to get in this year. I would put Randy Moss in. I also don't know. Scar in? Yeah, Scar got in.
He got put in by Mr. Kraft.
Oh, so there's that contributors thing too?
There is, but that's not part of this.
Can we get Ivan Fears in?
Ivan Fears is a good one. I've also, advocated on the shows for Ernie, obviously, at some point getting in.
Oh, that's true.
But
isn't he on the committee? How does that work?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So is Scar, I guess.
Dante usually comes too. Coach Scar usually comes too. I would say the only other thing though with that is like, don't you kind of have to put Bill in before Ernie, and like then Bill goes in, then you can put Ernie in? Like, does that order matter? Like that Bill isn't quite in yet. Like Bill's gonna go in at some point.
Yeah. Well, it's 5 years, right? Ernie left before. No,
it's 4 years.
Ernie left before Bill.
It's 4 years. I don't know if the contributor category matters in terms of that, but
so
if you want one is 4 years.
I guess if you want to have that argument, I'll just say, because Ernie's last year was 2020 or 21.
The Trey Nixon draft.
So 20. So he left in
2021.
Right, April 21.
Yeah, I think the 21 draft was.
Bill was here for 2 years. So like chronologically, no, I don't think that's unfair to put. Like obviously, Bill's the most deserving person.
Right. But Bill will go. Mr. Kraft will put Bill in.
That's going to be its own thing. That's going to be a separate
Brady-esque.
Yeah. So the contributor one, Ivan Fears, Ernie, stand out for me. Nancy Meyer, she's not in, right?
No, she's not in yet.
So she's going to get in.
That will be another one that Mr. Kraft does on his own.
I would think all of these are that contributor.
Yes. So
thing.
I would.
So that one's backing up too.
Yeah, Miss Nancy is retiring.
So she's not going to be on this one.
I don't think so.
She should not have to wait long.
I don't. She was involved with the combine because remember Elliot Wolf.
That's right.
Gave her the shout out. So I don't know if she's working through the draft and then one of the best careers, honestly, in Patriots history. I don't know if she's calling it a career after the draft, but for right now, I think she's still technically working.
Okay.
So
that's, I'm just thinking like contributor, there's that one, but
yeah.
In terms of players, I mean, Gronk's clearly next. Vinatieri's clearly after him.
Right.
And then the next two I'm hot on. Mankins, Moss.
Welker.
Moss and it's either both or neither to me. We got to be getting there with Devin, right?
So Devin's next year.
Yeah, he probably gets in before those guys too.
So this is the issue that you run into with all these things.
And then when's Hightower?
Probably the year after Devin, or maybe similar. This is the issue that you have with all these guys.
Yeah.
Is that you create when you start jumping the line, and I'm not advocating that there's anything wrong with that because Gronk and Edelman are so deserving.
Yeah.
That there's nothing wrong with it. But and then obviously Brady went in his year too.
Right.
So that year got washed out. When you start jumping the line like this, what happens is that guys start to slip through the cracks, like an Adam Vinatieri. It took Mike Vrabel a really long time to get his red jacket. Logan Mankins is, besides John Hanna, is probably the second best offensive lineman in team history. They can't get him in.
So hang on, it's retirement from the league, right? Not leaving the Patriots.
Correct. It is 4 years.
So Gronk and Hightower both played the same final year, was 21. So Hightower's eligible this year. So that should be the third guy.
That's weird because I have only heard people talking about Gronk being first year eligible. So maybe I have something wrong. I don't know. I thought it was 4 because I believe the
Hightower didn't officially retire, and he did the thing where like he was a free agent for a year.
Maybe that's what it is.
So maybe he has to wait another year, but like
because they want to try to the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I believe is 5.
Right. So they want to use it to bolster guys.
Right.
So which is a good use of it.
Yeah.
If Hightower's eligible, Logan Mankins was a great player.
If he was eligible, I'm sure we would have.
He's the third
it.
guy.
Yeah.
And it's just tough because. I don't know. Maybe it is recency. Nothing against Devin. Maybe it is recency bias. Who's more deserving, Devin or Vinatieri?
Vinatieri.
So maybe Vinatieri gets in.
I love Devin.
I do too.
But Vinatieri, I mean, the dynasty started.
He's got to be in. Yeah. And so you put him in.
So
you put him in, and then Devin and Hightower.
Yep. And you're starting to get into like the Matthew Slaters,
David Andrews,
James White will be coming up.
Yeah.
And, Logan Mankins was still sitting on the ballot. There are a lot of people in the room that covered the teams back then that really advocate for Chuck Fairbanks, who was like the first coach to kind of put relevancy and sort of like NFL metal behind the Patriots.
You think Chung gets in?
Maybe no offense, but like maybe once we get through the Gronks, the Edelmans.
I'm trying to think of the like second Super Bowl run staples because it's McCourty, it's Hightower, it's White, it's Gronk, obviously.
Yeah, my guess is
I don't know. Joe Tooney he's not even retired yet. Joe Tooney probably wasn't here long enough.
Those types of guys. Logan Mankins among them.
Although, does Tooney have 3 rings?
Logan Mankins, I feel like, will have his time because,
yes.
Again, no disrespect to anybody, but eventually you're going to kind of run out of like the Gronks, right? That are just like first ballot slam dunk kind of guys. And that's when you'll sort of circle the wagons back around to Mankins and those types of players.
I don't want that to happen with Vinatieri, though.
No.
And it shouldn't happen with Vinatieri. It shouldn't happen with McCourty, and it shouldn't happen with Hightower. I'm trying to think who else from those teams.
The only other guy from Dynasty 2.0, and it wasn't a long time, but Stephon Gilmore won a Super Bowl, won a Defensive Player of the Year with the Patriots. Very good Patriots career, but it wasn't a long time. That's 17, 18, 19.
Yeah, but he was
the best corner in football for a period of time while he was here.
Yeah.
So very good player.
I mean, if I'm going to say Randy Moss should be in, I can't. You got to put Gilmore in if Moss is going to be in. So that kind of handcuffs me.
Wes Welker should be in.
He's the franchise all-time leading receiver, right?
It's him or Stanley Morgan. I forget which one.
I think he might have catches. Morgan has yards.
He should be in. I know he didn't win the Super Bowl. I know that the catch, everybody holds the drop against him.
Yeah.
It's a bad throw. But everybody holds the drop against him. The stats in the period of time that he did them in are off the charts good. I mean, the production that he had over a 5 or 6 year period was absolutely insane. He was the best player at his position for a period of time, slot receiver specifically. He should be in. It might take a while. The Super Bowl champs might get in first. The Gronks, the Edelmans, the Hightowers, the McCourties. But eventually Wes Welker.
I've got 2 more. I just pulled up the all 2010s team to see who I was missing. One is I think we didn't mention him. Slater, obviously.
I mentioned that he's coming up. Yeah.
I got another one for you. I think you're going to hate this. He is the franchise's all-time leading scorer.
Gostkowski.
Yeah. Not before Vinatieri by any means.
I've talked to Paul and Fred about that one. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they've been a little bit reluctant on Gostkowski because he didn't really have the clutch kicks that Vinatieri had.
That's true.
The playoff performance wasn't necessarily great. He missed a couple kicks in Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But he is the franchise all-time leading scorer.
Let me ask you one more while we're on this, and this is a ways down the road.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, because you mentioned, they're going to run out of Super Bowl guys, and that kind of implies maybe unfairly, there's nobody 2019 or on that's going to get in. And, we hope Drake May way, way, way down the road. But
20 years from now.
If there's one guy that kind of gets in the mix for, hey, before we get to all these Super Bowl guys, we should get this guy in relatively quickly. Hunter Henry?
Trending towards, I don't know. It's such a great...
He has one more good season.
I think it's hard because that position in franchise history is so historically good. Francis, Coates, Gronkowski.
So I would almost argue that that's why he gets in.
Might be the best position other than quarterback because we have the greatest quarterback of all time. I think tight end is probably pound for pound the best position group in Patriots history.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
So...
But that I'm trying to pull up the stats here.
He's not on a Gronk, Ben Coates. Not old enough for Russ Francis. But not on that level.
In terms of receptions all time by a tight end for the Patriots, he's 3rd.
I didn't realize that.
He's 4th in yards. He's probably going to pass Russ Francis this year. He's 200 behind Russ Francis.
But he's only going to have realistically.
And he's going to pass Russ Francis in touchdowns.
Okay.
He's going to be.
It was a different era, to be fair.
This is going to be his 6th season in New England. He's going to play. He's probably going to play.
It's amazing that he's been here for 6 years.
And let's say hypothetically he plays one more year after this. He could get to 100 games. He'd be the 4th Patriots tight end in history with 100 games played in franchise. He's going to be top 3 in receptions. He's going to be top 3 in touchdowns. The only guys ahead of him are Rob Gronkowski, first ballot Hall of Famer, and Ben Coates, significant Hall of Fame snub. Ben Coates was the 2nd best tight end of the 90s behind Sharp. So I don't know. I think you make case for it.
I didn't realize that his stats were that good.
So I didn't realize.
It's a different era.
I remember because he passed Francis in catches this past year, and I was like, oh. And he's going to pass, assuming he stays healthy. So Francis had 3,100 yards. He's at 2,900. So he's 200 yards away from Francis, and he's 2 touchdowns behind Francis.
I didn't realize that. It's impressive.
Yeah. If he, maybe not right now, 1 or 2 more years, there's a case for it. Was one of the leading receivers on a team that went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. maybe they win one.
And if they win one, absolutely.
Yeah.
If they win one, I don't think there's a debate. He absolutely deserves a red jacket.
Well,
that's kind of one thing working against him right now is he played on some bad teams.
I'm sure tomorrow on Patriots Unfiltered we will get the lowdown of what went down in the meeting. You're not supposed to like really talk about. I think it's not quite Fight Club. Like you're allowed to talk a little bit about it, but I don't think it's supposed to be.
I get that.
An open book either. Let's take Randy's call and then we'll wrap the show up. What's up, Randy? How we doing?
Hey, just real quick for you guys, because you guys were running down the wide receivers there, but you didn't mention Jacoby Lane, and I feel like he's probably the best fit in the right range for what we need. And you look at the 6'4", 200, 10.5-inch hands, the 4.47 40, which is solid for a dude that's 6'4", and the 1.58 10-yard split, 40-inch vertical jump, like production in college. Multiple touchdown games. There were games out there that he looked better than Lemon, in my opinion. So I just want to know what you guys feel like about that. Again, like I said, you guys mentioned everybody, all the tall wide receivers, except I feel like him and Fields. I'm not as big a fan of Fields, but Lane, I feel like he could really fit what we need and maybe be available around 95. What do you guys think?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Randy. I would say with Lane, I believe the number is 33% of his targets were contested.
Is this on this thing you texted me last night?
Yeah, and I think it was the highest out of anybody. It was like him, Surratt, Malachi Fields were like the three highest guys. So the player that, I think the 40 time with Lane, it doesn't necessarily translate for me into actual separation. He's going to win in the red zone.
33% of his targets were contested, and he caught less than 50% of them. The next closest player was Elijah Surratt at 28.
Yeah, so a guy that wears coverage.
Yeah.
Slant winner, in breaking, slant winner. He can use his frame, kind of win across people's face. He's going to win in the red zone. I think he's going to be a viable red zone guy.
Receiver, yep.
But I don't know if I'm as high on him as Randy is because of the separation issues. Like he ran this 4.4. It kind of reminds me, remember when Jaden Higgins ran like a 4.4 out of nowhere, and it's like he doesn't play like that.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of that.
So the 4.47.
Yeah. Which is still, I thought he was going to be like a 4.5.
No, he's a 4.5. He seems like a 4.5 guy. Yeah, to me, he's a rotational player. He's, you're going to put him in the red zone. You're going to put him in, try to hunt matchups against smaller corners to win jump balls, but I don't think he's like a full-time guy. So kind of similar range in the draft for where the projections are right now, him or Stribling. Yeah, and I think, if it comes down to one of those two guys, it's that range. And then there's some smaller guys in that range. Brendan Thompson, who I think you actually like.
Just so fast.
He is very fast.
I mean, like
he is the definition of the fast and guy.
He literally made SEC secondaries look slow. And if you're doing that, like there were reps where he would just take off and he would just run through the entire defense. Now it was like he was running 100-meter because nobody touched him, right? But like it was impressive.
Can you be fast and fast? That's basically what he is.
I just think sometimes you have time speed guys, like Taekwon, and then you have actual fast guys. I think Thompson's both. I think Thompson's fast on tape and he's fast in the 40.
He's fast and he's football fast.
But he's just tiny.
He's very smart. He's also
like 5'6".
He could be quicker.
Yeah.
It's a lot of straight line speed.
Oh, yeah, no. He's a full-on go ball specialist.
Jameer Byrd? Is that a comp?
Sure.
I think Jameer Byrd was even a little bigger.
Yeah,
and that's kind of crazy to say about Jameer Byrd.
The Tutu Atwells, the Calvin Austins.
My guy for that I always go to is Devin Tompkins.
I
thought Devin Tompkins was going to be a stud.
Sure.
Just because he was so fast, and like this was early draft Barth. I was like, but yeah, he's like 150 pounds. He can't play every snap.
Oh, you want my two recency bias guys before we wrap the show up? Two offensive linemen. I did offensive linemen. I really hammered home get to the offensive linemen. Two guys that I just think are nasty maulers that just finish blocks really well. Travis Berg from Memphis, the tackle.
Yeah, they met with him, right?
Yeah, 6'8", 6'9", 320 pounds, just a mammoth of a dude. He's going to have all sorts of trouble blocking speed off the edge in the pass rush. That's going to be his big problem. But my God, does he put some dudes in the ground. Yeah. Like, he can absolutely finish guys. The guy that I'm actually really more excited about, though, Jeremiah Wright.
Oh, I knew you were going to say him. That's crazy.
The guard from Auburn. Yeah. Fourth round projection. Like, if you want to draft Mike Onwenu to replace Mike Onwenu, mashes people though in the SEC. Like I was watching him put Georgia defensive linemen on the ground. Like that does not happen very often. He can pull, he can move the line of scrimmage on base blocks, duo blocks, all that good kind of stuff. I mean, my God, is that dude mean? Now he can't pass protect yet, and that's going to be his biggest issue. He gets a little bit herky jerky in space and stiff and slow with his feet in space. But if you are just looking for a gap scheme guard that's going to get on a double team and is going to move bodies, then that's your guy, Jeremiah Wright. Two guys they've met with.
My recency bias guy, this is more of a comeback around thing where, like, I knew about him and I liked him, and then I kind of lost track of him because I was starting to learn all the other linebackers, but then I went back around to him today because Matt Dolph had him in his mock draft. We talked last week about Kyle Lewis, about Harold Perkins, some of these undersized, very athletic linebackers. Deontay Lawson from Alabama deserves to be in that conversation as well. If they want a coverage guy.
Soul.
I know. I don't know why. He's a good player. Also,
Harold
I think
Perkins is a freak.
One of, I think it's like 13 players to be named a multi-time captain Alabama, something like that. Like good locker room guy too. Fringe top 100 pick, but don't forget about Deontay Lawson. He's kind of forgotten guy's a good way to put it. He's kind of been under-discussed in this linebacker class, and that's not fair.
Okay, we got to go, but Jay called in, and I'm going to give him 2 seconds. Jay, got to be quick, though.
Thanks for taking the call. I really did want to piggyback off of your recency bias there. The tackle from Memphis, if you had to choose between him or Markel Bell for just a developmental guy, who would be the best bet long-term to back up replace Mosley?
Yeah, good question, Jay. I would probably go Bell just because I think the pass protection has a little bit more upside there. I'm really worried about the kid from Memphis being able to bend and get his hands on pass rushers. I think like those speedy, bendy guys off the edge,
right?
It's going to be dicey for him. Bell, I think there's more upside there in terms of him being able to have range and move his feet and pass protection. But that's a good question because those are the two guys that day 3 guys that you're going to kind of have in a cluster somewhere. Burke, though, man, is a mean SOB. Like,
there's something to be said for that.
After the whistle, he's like 10 yards down the field, putting guys into the ground. It was fun to watch. All right, we'll be back next week. We're inside of 3 weeks now, Barth, to the draft, right?
It's crazy.
We will have a lot more draft coverage next week. We'll have PU tomorrow. Maybe the old timers will talk a little bit about the Patriots Hall of Fame committee meeting here today. And Alex and I will be back on Catch-22 next Wednesday. We'll see you guys then.
Hey, this is Matisse. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure you like us wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, make sure to follow us on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else here that we do at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.